Ensoko TV ritukorikagere kubarine sana imeye Ense ya Kenya nene chitaika chindi chonsi kurubono Omorai Ense Dr. William Ruto nikagere kamutu Ebunge enene yole parliament abayigo mwanchimuri nyorangere the 13th parliament Ebunge ya 13 imeye Ense ya Kenya sakere kwandra amangana ao Omorai Ense nikaganyere kigima imeye Ense ngima toranika uchi kwana aritukorya nyoranga ene ntunda ya gatatu Omorai Ense abachi kabakago ika imeye Ebunge nene korwaso borai aneka twa muroche eriyo muhere kabisa nigori ngomo tienyi oyukata narimo chitaiki 12 cyo mwako yo karegete Bosio webungelia na basoma budget yabwate chibesa chinyinga sana budget ya renge ye trillion chinugu taibere hechyo chire ego ikachi bilioni 32 chinugu taisano chibesa chiri chense ya America bose 2.5 US dollars so mwanchu mugerele nyoranga igoto cyo kwandra amange igoro yo Omorai Ense mbuga sobonega abageni baito bande barenchera bawo cyo kwanda igoro chinkwana cha Ruto chikete kwanirwa kurwa Ebunge nene ya 13 imeye Ense ya Kenya na una inde kubotambe mega iga kosoko kwana gwokoryo igondenere omumanyi wege siasa omuringiro omumanyi wege siasa to kumuruka political analyst karotore gali mega ayech camera innocent nyango
biya mono dani nga chogendrete
mbuyande kabisa
chena chagete mambia no tolega iga anamono ko rango murigererio itokorwa sense mo yagusi county cheito Kisi na Nyamira na boigo yo meta so mucho yo Nairobi no bali diaspora banyara kwa bakwemanyi na bali chisemo kya Kajiado nero matete gatoiroke diaspora macha senchira ya bano mwancho muri to kwaliganelio tonyara kwa batoko ligereri muno Omorai Ense aliganetie achikobaga ukwana nense ya Kenya gekogera nere ndo Omorai Ense dan na nene mono kilia achikobaga ukwanera no koerera asense ya Kenya ire sebono iga anyara kwa bakuligereri ibintu biri serikali ya ikiraniri na boigo na bakoirali bagelia anyara kwa bakuligereri mechandeli serikali ya eteire na boigo akwanire mirobelio nebintu biria serikali ya yerobereti na boigo na rwibirengereri biyaye gosamaroro ya serikali ya
innocent imetinyi 5 na matuko 5 na 3 kuri Omorai Ense ryo mwerio aringese Ebunge enene yebunge ya 13 imeye Ense ya Kenya yarengo mutinyi 5 arimo umwako yiga kitariki 12 na kwante binte binge esuwango tukonya gukwanira tukwanire emangana aye budget iri gakobeka ine ingaki gosenga kyanja abere ko bakunyikana kwika abonaiga na begete budget ya ringe ya 4.2 trillion shillings imeye ya Kenya ya projected yekuruka 2025-2026 budget sigati yabo tukwanire mangana aya agriculture ngo tuntu kwanira itara ya Omorai Ense imeye chinsemo au unaye mutko yabwangege sorogongoro rwa western noragongo rwa Bokamba satare county cha Kitui Makweni amo ona Machakos ya wate budget ya ringe ya 4.2 trillion innocent ase agriculture ya ringe 147.6 billion timetinga ki orakwana abutogo skatoma yosko torigeri education torigeri mangana ichisemi torigeri obochenu nabo igotochikuberia somuru birio ya housing allowance nabo igamangana ya security ostoko tabo borendi menyensi yake
dani intagete koracha kalitangani mutinyo gatanu narimo oyolengase Ebunge no muwaziri w'ekibesa na umuwaziri w'ekibesa gabuguretie yabuguretie kabu kiriye koro kya marore serikali bwate na namone mirobeli serikali bune chigokorekana kitaro cy'Omorai cyakogenda ikibwenete ko ba compared n'ekibesa kiri kikorete kira allocated ya budget totebo chire se chinsemo kya Makweni buna wateba chinsemo kya Eastern Nere taro yo mweli yakorete ekera gukwanera uburimi asa location yeli rura sobolemi buna wante bigere 147 billion na bwene te koligere linga sense emeli babegete egenta ko buati chibese chiriese mirobili li babangete chiakoreki chiachira sense emeli ekinege ntekemo ekero Omorai Ense agokore taro yaye agokore ndu yego supervisory yani okobante nenera na korangi mirobili li abegete buna Omorai Ense gweterase ewizara ye keganche giense yekiranire igonyege netenga bono nachigotoeresa mba invested chibese gete na ande tutakire tumanyenga asokolima uko twasoete mugondo nye nokurema ubotugi ose tugakora gintu kende kire related na mangana y'oburemi tutagete kumanya dani kurwa soro botiroli ase chibese chibekire 147 billion echie serikali ye invested cheikira saba Kenya this stage ikine ntegetangani eliya kaberonye bachinyorete wetera se chintetere wetera so buoyo tonyara ko batokoranga inki returns chira nire gocha asense ya Kenya so ebine bintu biriye ekero Omorai Ense abwenete gukwanera arachiko bagakurigereria na namona nyari go tubago tumanye nga ekera babekire chibese chi go chi ase sector bune y'oburemi turigereri ngakino na maguri yendagerare ekine genteke mukirinye genete ng'Omorai Ense ase orobotiro lyachikobaga gutwara somo gasobono rurachikoba rukurigereria
na no bori mina rotsana kubeka nene sorogongoro lya rwa central na begetuka banza kubeka chibesa chiringi chine na kaste ngana yobore none chinga kito ngende kunyora bututukanu gati ya bari mibeke medikali ye kawa yensigie cha Ense ya Kenya nenkwara muswada igetu gusimu tugare nkwara mo mwimende kwe county ya Kisii donya dori siga komana sana tokamara ka konywa omo senator mochore usumu mochore Sabina Chege korwa sorogongoro lya rwa central samutuko abwanga nkorenganga ebine bintu bya gochikugireria hamangana ayo kwera na chi bonus kati ya bari mibe chinsemo au Ense ya Kenya Omorai minister osomo cabinet minister abwa finance Ense ya Kenya ekiganja kichibesa kiragete emutu ye Ebunge nene muti enyo 12 omwaka oyiga nabetakaba agakurwa asegoseka kwena 138 billion which is sector yo bochenu sector ikora sector ya bochenu yekora unere omocies Aden Duare asamatuka abwango yiga idija renge any case ya 15 billion Kenya shillings nonyene sector bochenu negende konyora ama naye konyora wako kwaye nene se ikiganja kiria giasha ikotebakananga wikirabone gankira atwara bunyamasi bwisaine Ense ya Kenya timetinga kiragirira
dan ntagite asinine bari sensemo yakabere studio ngo tokonya bari clip asinine buno Omorai Ense asoeta ase Ebunge chiaringi chitarike 20 mwaka ulio itete chite mutinyo 11 buna bono iga ege ntakwanirite ngakirie asensemo yobochenu unyore twarenga sensemo ya Ense agateba n'umurubiri ore outdated yani wetiru n'ekingaki bono umurubiri yo chiko chomugeni okurukunga sha nigo chikoba gogokonya kiromo Kenya egento boni Omorai Ense abwenete gocha atebya abakenya ase state of address iliya yabwate nogoteba nga ekera twanganye tugochia so umurubiri yo osha NHIF go yabwata abakenya baringe 1 million totebe gose ni sana lakini ekera twaso asha twanyare ko batokubugulia abakenya bonsi basoire gose ebali 1 million 15 amanya ko bakakuruora kwanirenga ekera twarete tumurubiri yo sha chi family chitali kwenyara chi amate chitali kwenyara abantu bali bene batali kwenyara tukanyara kwa batoga tebanga esenye njaba bande bakuru contributions tukatumeka chibesegete tuka supplement bali batali karaki batali konyora ekine kigento ndengere tinga as state of the nation address ara basika ko baga kuligereria sama bagali yaroro timanye tigose na chikubuga tali bageli nande atebe challenge yeri yaroro dan nelinga ntosire tigweta ni billion ya 20 gwe aseke ganja giasha nanda ya niga kwanire no muwaziri Aden Duale maega yoga tebanga chinya gitari nchiri chia tokire chironkona chinya gigo se chinya gitari chiri chitayo chitali we exist chinya gitari embeo so ebinte kamine we expect to iwo Omorai ga gukwana kurwa se Enkwana yaye nga aiga no twarenge nande keratwasuka gochia twikirega yo
nigo haya gochamega yo omwaziri bwa mangana bwa mangana yo bocheni Ense ya Kenya Dr. Aden Duare nabakagweka mutu Ebunge na matuka makaitre kora sana bakunsana na abogeti ababunge kati yabo mubunge bwesemo ya kitutu cha South yore Muskanton Kibagende ngwaro chigori gitari gite chi gitari chitayo chigo sie kumna Aden Duare konenga na Aden Duare timeti ngakemarari gori gitari chiri fake chikora chikwegwa chibesa chiri chasha
gwikiraboni ganturanyora ne process igendete kuringoliwa ase bigambero aho na ndane ne mono tuise kurigereria siasa umanyete nera ase binte byonse twarorire asama tukamange altercation yabete gati umuwaziri bw'abachenu Aden Duale no mubungo iwata abo kitutu chache South Muskanton Kibagende asali kumwiranira yakamotebi kinyagitari ekyogontebya nche timbuati nyagitari tigobo ibi egatie binte kaminebyo ekinege nteke mukilibono so Omorai Ense ari goteba NHIF yarenge dented gose yasaliriwe ebicha yaye nchire yare bakurwo bakorerwa chia saba Kenya kubwatekana na kili bagoteba ngobukurumi mbwa renkoro twanganyire twasoire sha nero ya twalira umuchando uyu so egento chendigeretie akero Omorai yachikobaga ukwana igoro ya achievements gose se bintu biri bakorire nyegenete ase Enkwana yaye na chiko baga kurigereri na korra ase ebibaye biberete
tigango tera chinga kichia bene fanya korra Enkwana yo Omorai Ense chibichama na Mario Giaye kurwa ase studio ya kabiri inde tunyara kunya kwemanya nabo mwanchu mugirie kunyara kuma agwikemanye none ngana bwo twakire namba yetu yesi migwete se screen yawo so turikere SMS ase so mutando to Facebook to ya so meya mesemo inem okagerto Omorai Ense onyere gwakira nigati ebintu biri hariete ira byo guchikarania une sector ya bochenu sector ya chisemine sector area ya mangana yo bore mi Ense akanya tango twara chibichi Omorai Ense haneka kwanra mangana ya bochenu.
The economy continues to grow steadily, recording a 5.6% growth rate in 2023, among the highest globally. We project 5% growth this year and 5.6% growth next year. Honorable members, our efforts to secure food security and stability are already bearing fruit. Since February, we have distributed subsidized fertilizer to 6.45 million registered farmers in 45 counties, enabling them to increase their yields. And this year, we have procured and through e-vouchers distributed 7 million bags of both planting and top dressing fertilizer to boost food production across the country. This intervention will see a projected increase in maize production, for example, to a record 74,090,000 kilogram bags. We have also concluded long-term agreements with 11 suppliers of assorted fertilizers so as to make this commodity available all year round. Fertilizer for the long rains season will be stocked in outlets nationwide, ensuring our farmers are ready to plant, grow, and produce. This forward momentum will not only increase our agricultural output, but also reduce our reliance on costly food imports, securing a more self-reliant and a more prosperous Kenya. This approach, rooted in my administration's policy to support production rather than subsidize consumption, has already made food more accessible, more affordable to many households. Today, Kenya boasts substantial national stocks. 47 million bags of 90-kilogram bags of maize are in our stores. 8.8 million bags of beans, 10.4 million bags of wheat, and 2.1 million bags of rice. Slowly but surely, we are building a food-secure Kenya, where families need not to worry or worry less about their next meal. In the sugar sector, we have achieved a historic milestone. All 17 sugar factories across Kenya are now operational, producing at impressive levels, while 4 new sugar factories are under construction. In July alone, domestic sugar production reached 84,000 metric tons, surpassing the national monthly consumption average of 40,000 metric tons. For the first time in recent history, Kenya is producing enough sugar to meet our local demand. This success is attributed to many factors: subsidized fertilizer for sugarcane farmers, an additional 500,000 acres that has been brought under production, and improved management of the sugar sector, which have revitalized production and brought the industry back to life.
Mwanchu magili ine Enkwana ya Omorai Ense mwaka uri etakeragete Bosio Ebunge asa kwanire amangana mangi gati yabo obonyori bwa amangana aye chibando boigo chingende oboli ono mochere Ense ya Kenya asa tebirenga Ense ya Kenya goikirenga kire mwaka uri etata nyo kunyara yabe kire esesto chimilioni chimilioni sano na ibere chia mangana y'obwoyo irigo chikwena kinga obwoyo bwisaine ngwenda borekire engongo yense ya Kenya iri kornyo ya endagera hanene ese kemerikeria agie chibando imeyense ya Kenya mure bwense okwanire mangana ayobonyori ibwe chingende chi no obori hakuruka wit na baigo obori engano na baigo kwanira mangana ayo mochere time etio ko sokora ko sa tebirenga Ense ya Kenya kuikero mwako rieta kera renge mutugie Ebungene igere inga esukari nigo yarenge kunyore Ense ya Kenya geisaine na nyini gotonete koranga sector ayo esukari ngunye bwate michanda Ense ya Kenya kuikera aboniga
Dan egento nkorengereria singa kiyo kero muraibensa kwanete nigatebete inchira kwanza arwete ginte kurukunga arwete roboti rokorkinga Ense ya Kenya yachakire kokoribia essence muyobulimi nanda gatebanga nkochikoba barenge konyarkoba bakoena na ubuyo gochia asabalimi bali ikire bale chimilioni sano nebyo inuguta inya na batano 6.45 million na ande gari gateba ubulimi obwari chwa kolekana ase chi county emerongene na isano chi county emerongene na isano ise guchirigere lidan etubwate 47 counties nchire chiri oranyore maybe in one way or the other echire eroro igo Kenya ase chi county emerongene na isano nigebwenete ngana ntubwate ndagere koleti etoisaine igo nibiri choga gitali gukora ubulemi echi ataete amini atatebete nganchi chikoje bachikonyora obokonyi bwo bwibinte byo chikoba biko bakonya kulima na egento kiria goteba nkiringa tunyari ko batugukinia enchira tokonyore ndagere ya kira lituko na natonyare ko batokogenda Bosio buna abakenya tobe self reliant na nena mono tunyare ko batokoranga tweteneneire bunense ntuli kogenda kuna gukabesa kuri muina aliegera tolete gocha muina indagera nebwa tumuchanda sana umuntu atarabeka noine yanka mubire indagera nere ntanga diritangani so ebine bintu biri umurayi akwanete umwakoli igento bono tutete kumanyanga ki asichi story chito cha National and Cereals and Produce Board ntubwate endagereye asebi yake biri byito ekine kitoko boli chise monjire twarorire boni gaba Kenya bakoraranjara nonye Nairobi abantu of course ngorara balencha igo nebintu biri gati ya moto chikoba tukulingoli na tuganyete because umurai bwense ninyegenete nabwate timu yaye yoko mokonya kilia chikoba gagukwa na gari kegende Bosio na kurigereria ibintu biri akorire ninyegenete ese report yaye gose scorecard yaye igente getangania chikoba gukwa na achievements lakini dan tunyore ekera achagete State of the Nation Address umwaka w'ichiri ubere 2024 murai bwense garorekanete koba kanyenyekete
sana
eline kera konye Ense ya Kenya yanyoriro gwakwa abasai bagenzi bachire para
yikumutinyu ryo gatangarimo
Ense ya rekorekananga ni yebwa tumusukusuko bono mwaka oyo mwelire 2025 nero yatwara yaya tutete koro murai uriyo chiete parliament gakorekana karo munyenyekevu gose nande nakoreki naroreka noro egento kenda kuonete kesumbwete serikali ya Kenya nigento gikuru kwa madeni alia satebetenga igo banyorete amakabesa arekerengo kiguru bono ekera twaligerete no ni Gordon twarucha around 1.7 trillion chiko beko chiko service loan ekera chiko service buna litwale gotebia murigere no enkuru mambia nkelinga chinga kichindi chibese chiko bugulirwa chini chibese trio konyora umuntu abwate deni kerabwate deni dan talikwanda gwakana likabesa akwanda akana interest ntotete komanya twarorire National Strategic Facilities una bone loan nere serikali ya Kenya yabogoreti kurwa ase chinse chinde elia ya enanetu ya yoniri ya translate ya chire ya swere chiyen yugo chiasi chibesti chaba China ntotete komanyanga inkie kogera chiloni chiagoretu that way chikanyara ko bachiko ni gwenyenche kamineyo eyabeto mweso gocha saba Kenya ne serikali ya Kenya gose ningi kerirete binte kaminebi nto igene ta soroboti uruwaye na to tebi chibese chiri babegeta location yese budget una 147 billion echichi umwaka oyo na chiri banyorete kurwa sobulimi because ubulimi na boronye bware gokora ubwari ngo buboita ntotete nara kumanya ngangi kirikire
bwa soye ngati yebinte binge sana mu chimurira umure bwensa gere chiko kwanira mangana yoboremi mangana yobochenu na mangana ali ya emerubere yechiyomba achirwe rensa housing allowance ya kwegera sana na grand chitaro cha yo chinsemo au chense ya Kenya ntokwanda mangana ntokwanira mangana health sector innocent tokwana mangana ya agriculture nyeni go gushiterwa kwanda itaro abayo Omorai bwense chinsemo aho andeta ya bwango soro gongorori erwa abokamba na nyanigo tura kwanda mangana security means ya Kenya Omorai bwense ogose omo minister bwa mangana ayechibesa means ya Kenya karaika buti we parliament umutienyo gatana limo chitaki 12 cyo mwaka uyu na betaka kubika 251 billion uchiya sector ya mangana ayoborendi bwe means ya Kenya urendi bwe asinale bono bikarboniga ntoro chene ditikoria moiso nditikoregoro kwende bomwe ya mogari yabasiganya tite bomwe ya mobasigari oro gasira magimabo na bandangi batano amoni gobagende kurana magimabo ese nyagitari time tinga kyora kwa ne mangana ayechwa sicho bituje sensemo ya security na amangana gose amangana ya security karboni games ya Kenya andre chingongo chirichia kire mwana buna chingongo chirichia notice
dan ntate kuligereria oburendi bwense ya Kenya mburigereri ase chinse amange ibere tubwa tuburendi bwito imense ito ya Kenya ningegenete kero Omorai bwense aho chikobaga ukwanera ase speech yae na atwale nsemo yabe na uchikobaga ukwanera igati y'Abakenya bali babere bagusiria magimabo bali ese bitaseni by'abanyanyimbo eyine nchire yamo nkigenete Omorai bwense abwenete ko point out na kuligereringa ngaki enseme yoburendi yabere utingiwe namba ibere ntubwate egento kilitwate bigunga abanyanyimbo baitumba bwati resources tire enough ntotete ko manyanga buna bono no nyino kunyurwa ukorikigwa kwa abanyanyimbo buna kuabuta ntotete ko manyanga oburendi bwitunga ibo berete bunense ripo effect gose egento kilikia bairege gosoka kurwabo asoko iregeka kutalika abanyanyimbo ase chinga kichibwenerete tumanye gochicha asoko gosereligwa okogosereligwa kweime yense ya Kenya gutotete komanya ese byombe bya bibiko igerwa bwana bwa mwanya ba tugokwana birenga serikali yabono iga nigegendete gutachiranse bali bakwigerwa bwana bwa mwanya bantu na bali bagosokia liyogiria abo bosibole bwabo tutete komanya nge serikali nebegete oborendi gochiasa abantu gukwana freely ekinegente kende twente komanya tokoligereri na perceived enemies bali bagochase chinse chitu bali bibago na barutote bigunga ki buna twarorire terrorism acts nonye nabantu abagocha baura abantu bande chinibo cyabo kuri umugondo abande banda babaura cyombe cyabo ikinege nteke mukilinye genete ng'Omorai bwense ara base ko konyora libaga nage kwanera sobwagale abo soburendi tokwanira abamate baito barorekanira sama tukabwango goto passive buna threat uise kuligereria Nicholas oyo na oyo nde Bob Njagi mbagende nse ya Uganda. Bakarukwa experts bukorobelie amandamano bakabekwe fridge ekairera eserikali gajigo bageni koligerelie seme baga yabo ya diplomasia paka Abakenya bali bakairana ikinege ntutubente koligerelie abamate baito kurwa sense ya Tanzania na barabu ngokwana bale enjira yabagatebanga nabantu barwite actually naligerelie se speech kaite ngo yonyora tole
ningane gukwana n'Omorai bwense Tanzania mu
agatebanga abantu ba kanetwe bakaruchinse chesiko bagachigosalia omulembe ase ense yabo finally tumanye kuligerelie omwelio iguru y'oburendi obo tugukwanira ntorocho Omorai bwense ya Uganda Yoweri Kaguta Museveni na atebetenga na atakeira nyore ense monere ase nyancha ya Indian Ocean uburi mubwabo na bakotebekana ngambu karoro ngokora tuli biasara sobwanu abono yoche kumanyekana government partnership uko bwaterana kulije serikali chikubwaterana onye tuabegete pipeline tukabwaterana naba ya Uganda tubwente kumanya chibeseringa bapambe tuoro onye buchikaroro lakini nende yini binte bikoro ebimebye president yabone ta address ntu abwatege tange kireli tuare korosi ntu atagete kubwaterana Uganda ntu kumanya gosene kige kairete bali baroche ngamba bwate SMS Indian Ocean tutagete Omorai bwense ara isa above atoerese buna Abakenya inki chingwane chimineti kurwa saba amate no moelia kerato tebiri boigo tumaye komanya enchira yabo sitoko genda busibuna Abakenya
Enkwana gokwandra mangana Indian Ocean Omorai bwense ka kwandre Enkwana yo ngwa moraruto kabatebanga inyante negintu keburu tutoka kenyororo manya batede koira tikabayire timeti kwa na inki Enkwana ya ruto ya mineti
egento nchenta etagoteba nkilinga ntutageti korrekana casually to our neighbors chinga kiche ikeire chiri tubwenete gukwana tugukwana ebintu tumineti because abamate baitu barakane gukwana nande bakora bikorwa use koligereria ense ya Tanzania yaralinga mwabakori emirimo gosaba akori obunchuriri abakabake mbaga niri gokoreki kokora obunchuriri ya seseme igiye kinento bamineti nga abantu aba bakire koira egendo yekorukwa amabagaitu of course ntwaro chumu waziri Musalia Mudavadi wateneta mangane chinse chisiko ga ukwaniranga aba Kenya ababarali ekera bakora emirimo chibestiri bakorosi no bagutige senseri kwarali ne ntuntote abiri chirichigo chagaiga ntutete kuligire linga heart to heart enkora senkora buna intubona bamura n'abanyaruka bamwabo togotebania bona tukuru brothers and sisters bense ya Kenya intubona bumaye no murayo itata tebwense ngaki abamata babaruche mase ya mere ngukwana ari na sulu disappointment kia morokire egere nera maye gutubwa tukiroro boti kaminuru oise kuligire ligento yakora dani ntagetumura ibwensa kwa negente kinje buna innocent dadi buno muliki nkelinga ekerense ya Rwanda yatwara umuchando na DRC Congo ngwaro chabarayi balikira umuntu ogosoka isiko outwardly yaga express yaga kwana bwikira nunga ngikelia roche igona kibintu birindigere tingo murayibwense abwena tegukwana
umugasorero kurwa ese ebunge no mwanchi moyinyoranga cyatinde cyonse kurubona igo murayibwense Dr. William Ruto ngo ikare motu ubwebunge yenene ya parliament yere ntunda ya gatatu bono kurwa soburayi okwanira mangana mange hayo tukagerete ngaho cyo kwanira ngati ya mangana iyo burendi cyo kwanira mangana ayo buremi ya cyo kwanira mangana ikisemi meyense ya Kenya na cyo kwanira mangana nonye na ya housing allowance mu rubiri yo boko gacha kinyomba kirigulense uyoga ndete kone kiwase chingongo au chinsi ya Kenya SC County chonsi emerongene na isano onayire mwanchi muri yatega tuske moto tochi kwanda mangana ayekisemia sake sana base tuwaroche mwaziri wa mangana we mwaziri w'ikisemia ya Kenya na bakabaga kubeka 707.2 billion uchesa amangana ayekisem chenge nkore ngana yero kiganja kya tukibasa chinge kabisa imense ya Kenya kwene kingo mara ibwense ngo tebali ngo yase kwene kyaringa kisemi kunyora chire bagarigo kabisa kitu cyo kwana mwenye kisemi na amega ayo umwaziri kubeka kibese cy'umuti yenye ugatana ari mu mwako yiga kurwabu twari umuti nyweta abari mu bakubakara abari mbaba abari mu beti university mbaba isko bwetanya matuke 35 nabo igo honiga gwaruche litko ya iki yaeta abari bari ba JSS korwa county au Kilifi bakora uno chairman yobo nuroche Mr. Mogere na kwatega gatebanga kwigera January bachukana birasi imenye batrali ko kwikanu kira bande bakorera asese bwetani umwaka yomo naniga wante koliko tora bari baje asese litukorega korora gongo rwawusi mbesa gati na korwo ukorari uko ngwikira January mutenyi mutangani mwaka we 2024 na isano na momba ligochiko so sebilasi go baguchiko so mu ukurobekana nkitora kwa namwe ikisemi nonye nigo mega ya amatemu amaneko eremense ya Kenya mutukama kahite
amate amini sense mu yichisemi kintu gikurigerera gumono no mubaro uri okinire bwa borokia na borokiwa asichi school mwako uri gatotebeti ngo cyari kurikagwe tani abarimu kiribu 50 na 5 no 56000 abari chikwa bakuri kubagenda asichi school kirigia JSS okogani kwarorekanire tumanya abana abono bali barenge piloting class kirkiarenge JSS bono ngogenda kire kichiko soase senior secondary school ndotete kumanyanga ngakie serikali yero bireti ase kerenge ekyo okwiro bilikwa gochakira kurwe bitabo chi school kwa bororo nebintu biribiganiri abana funsi bachi bakorake bachikumira na biro bachikosoma ibine bitutagete tororigererie tororenga kyumura ibwensa ko bwaga address lakini nende fund large buna nagotebye state of the nation address done niye korokia emirobeli ya serikali emirobeli ya serikali ntwayerora riri baretete e budget ya se ebunge buna whatever around bakabeka 707 billion ando ise kuligera gisemina kicheire chibest nyingi nere sector egotebekana kera abakenya babwate go sense yonde yonse tete kogenda Bosio kera kwanyolire kwa ruri kisemi go chia sabantabu nigo bakogendera go Bosio so egatie binte bitubirigere tororenga murayibwense inkikilia rachiko bagaga totebye kurwa sense meyo tumanye gocha dan nande turigererie ega chiskuru nchire audit report neroro inu muwaziri kuna gukwana nera buno murayi nabarara sinini akunira sinini atotebinga chibesere ngatu asiriri kurwa se chiskuru echi cyale batebekana kire embeo host kire embeo ebine bintu biriga titurachiko batokoligereri nande toligereri ngo mubaro bwa borokiwa na borokia ngakyure banyorire umubaro ri balance iri gwenerete iri tonyare ko batokoligereri ayande nare bagutigere chi union nande se statement yo murayibwense igirachiko bagego kuna sinini taliyo chikoenda kwa rasa mange nyegenete chi ministry waze jibwizara na kiro cinchibe chikwerera asobwikira no samangani kaminayo
togotigera mu kisemi tungo tutero kwa namwana yo sobwikira ngo yo kuri kwa barimu cyore korera mangana igoro yo omoga mu bwikirekera mbate banga batacheti ko korera una batagetende ngana bari para abaroki babo ikiskuru cy'iki university mense ya Kenya na abayire riba gatime tugose kwanyera riba ari ukwana na batatu ngakwana na batatu beki university au igo bakorera mangana ari help bari bateba kana rengo siyo ne batari konyora kibasa kiri cya help na iba maminja ya kibasi cyonse cyabikwa kurwa ne wizara ya yekisemi meyense ya Kenya se wizara yekisemi cyenge 707 billion .2 billion time tingi kigenda tegati yekyumbikeria kya help wika se wizara yekisemi na wika se kiganja gyekibesa meyense ya Kenya
ekirangoligere dan asa mangana ya man concept ya se sector yekisemi yentongoligere linkelinga Omorai bwense keraso etobrai myaka 3 yaelire igachete na system wingeni yokora ibintu none funding model igose kwana na kibese gochia asiji university igore ngo muroberio moye kwaro cha abana beji university ya gutwara one on one engagement akogamba na barabo na barumba orogeti gotaga oka kwabo ngaki babu gatukiri kibese cyo cyase chi university ya beterete nande bayira nese umuri uri omukoro bari gutumeko help nonye nabo bade bya ebibaho nkokoraki kororekana bire igonto igenete ng'Omorai bwense na kwanere igara base gukwana kibestiri babu gatukire gweterese kiganja kya help lakini nabata kwanere logistical problems guseme chandelia ekumirana ekera bagendete ko koremirobilie ya help aigatindo ching'Omorai na chikoira chinga kichinyinga kwanoro nandi buna nagatebye ibinte narabitigire wizara yekisemye bege gukwanera lakini ngento manye tu Omorai bwense ara chikobaga gukwanera mono nkilinga twabekire infrastructure twabekire mirobeli yokorkinga chisemi twachire kurwa sekerengo kilkiarenga ochiekerengo kende inyegenete nga ase bintu biria Omorai bwense ara chikobaga gukwana biria ikiraniri inse y'Omorai bwaya kinigenteka mara chikobaga gukwanera na nda uchikubona gakorekana goteba nga serikali yaye yabekire lige na lietabu golden egg igoro yechisemi ngaki umurubili yanyara kwekeke
wachumwereke innocent onyanga bateba nga twabekire nkonyore nkwana y'Omorai bwense betambu na bateba tumeweka tumetenga kwarenga tuitumanya kinki keria tengire ase wizara yechisemi turi kumanya magendero kya ya korero sinki yanyara kwa kagwikirania ese wizara yechisemi wizara iri y'oboremi ngati ebintu biria bikera kukwana nonye nigo na amangana aria aye oborendi emergency anegati Ense ya Kenya na chijirani cheito Ense ya Tanzania amo na Buganda ese toro chenga kumusana kuri kwendrete samatuko abwango igo monchu mwelio Omorai bwense oreka gutara kirase tima etinga mo director na gonte clip getenkere ketayare ikanya go cheswa Bosio oyembeo kwarenga ne clip kiria gwasaba kia Samia Suluhu ka gukwana tigatora kigiria torachinya gukwana mangane mwe itaro y'Omorai bwense asa chinsemo ao chinsi ya Kenya
na zaidi kuliko jana yetu. Ni wasihi tuendelee kuilinda itikadi yetu ya umoja na mshikamano. Ndugu zangu, wote tunaitakia mema nchi hii, tumesikitishwa na kuhuzunishwa na matukio ya uvunjifu wa amani, upotevu wa maisha na uharibifu wa mali za umma na mali za watu binafsi kwenye baadhi ya maeneo hapa nchini, hasa kwenye majiji na miji. Kilichotokea na sio Utanzania. Haikutushangaza kuona kuwa baadhi ya vijana waliokamatwa kutokana na kadhia hiyo wametoka nje ya Tanzania. Vyetu vya ulinzi na usalama vinaendelea kufuatilia na kuchunguza kwa undani haki ya ndani na taswira na sifa za Kitanzania ni zaidi kilichotokea na kuirudisha nchi katika hali tuliyoizoea kwa haraka. Kamati ya ulinzi ya kitaifa na kamati za ulinzi za mikoa na wilaya na wataka muhakiki
Enkwana ya Omorai bwense wa Tanzania Samia Suluhu yo chorwe sentunda yende kwa Ense yo obuna Omorai bwense kwandrenga na kwana mega yabo chorwe boneka korekana matuka makaite Ense ya Tanzania nto arachibura buchi korekana garia abantu babusiya magima bo mwancho muregeria tokarara enibo ene yechibese nyinga sana gusaribwa Ense ya Tanzania sago akwero gwichana kwaye kuseribwa enibe yo na kenate betina arakanete kaho kwananga abantu igati abantu go barweta abantu batari bense aigo baswete gwichi miense atazana gwitire imibaga ao ribaga kora kibakanyara ko bagusario marembe na bagusarie ebintu byense yakenyene Enkwana yayo Omorai bwense ya Tanzania Innocent Onyango mwacu muge yatebanga inga igekorekana ngabantu getembare babete bagutambuka na guchigosario marembe imeyense yaye Enkwana yabereka bekoreto bututuka n'ugwete tuketeranga turakwana nginganiyo
litangani Dani sekurigere na kila batebinga asesemo yobulendi ubukogenda n'ubwamate tukurigereria ngakitubwa tubwamate n'abamate baito bali tole na barabu imeyense osaisko yense bali tole na barabu kerense ya Tanzania gotebanga abasayi bali babwatira umbali bamenyi bense ya Tanzania ntutete kuramanya ngaki keka ubusunte no ba Tanzania wokonyora orobot no nyenkiri kegendere toro abakenya mbamenyete ense ya Tanzania ebagatugete bakairwa cicere senje batatugete babwate nonye nabandi ibande yakora tukanyitwa yakorire buna yabere a free East African state kumuntu agotara kurwa waso agocia abambali batugete bali ese binyonsi bagayikiboro bakabasoted bakabeku kando bagatebigunga igo muri Tanzania illegal bono bayikigu Bosio Omorai bwenso irwo roboting abantu abana butu babwate bakurubekana byakogera abuntura amanya to that extent serikali ya Tanzania nere bwate gende iguru kungu umusigo bwo proof nga abantu ababwatete n'essence mu yokurobekana balenge nande onya bakenya bayigete bagasoense ya Tanzania bagasoso ukurobekana ryo lyama mochonaro lakini esenye icho Tanzania yakolire ebintu bikororekana ko babyege sunte mono I think Mama Sulu chinga kiechi na babwente go chinche tactic naro chigago kwana igora n'aba Tanzania kako batebye nga umuchanda bono babwate nobo chigutwara ekieni keli bachi kongusa abantu kuruchinse chesi kubachi kubakonya eliko banone chilone kwaral na ndagendere ni agenda yo batebanga abamate barete tumuchando atali wa address problem ire sense yaye ryo muchando no goretiki nororo igo Omorai bwense nyigenete nga nerekera chikobaga gukwanira ntutagitakwanire ni Enkwana y'abakenya nkwara ase ebiyombe odani byabere bigukwanira nga serikali ya Kenya getigeta abakenya bali boka chinse chisiko tali Tanzania kabono tosoke togende no ni chinse chiri chikuru kunga Gulf countries twarole abarayigete bali SSM ya serikali bali babwate network gose chinjire bagwetagati serikali eyo babwate chi agency chiko ira abantu chinse chisiko na ekera bakwira abantu abasi chinse chisiko kwanyora ng'abakenya bakali gusumbuka chinse mukiri igo ne bintu biri twegenete ngaki ekero Omorai bwense agokwana gakara tumuruko mugaka bwono bwense kera gokwana abana baye rero ngo babisi ali chimbaba ababekaso bwamo
anya ko bagakora gokwana imechande yo ngane yo ya abantu abusaba kele baguciye chisiko banyora imechando ya kwandu sana korenga ngeserikali yensi ya Kenya nyere netika tebanga ya yantu nteyo chande gete korende balia gati ya balio bakwana kuroro gote bali gati imechande libagwetera igo korenga ngane yo nekinyara gukwanirwa habintu nebinge tukagere Omorai bwense acho kwaniro mwancho mugire nabakumwe abo osira bogoturikira li uko naye nabokuribira ngeri byao kwetera SMS nabogwa kesimi mase mogoche sekretari gito yensoko tijyo mwancho mugire na intu gotukujibwata uribira ngeri byao ine kiwoge to Omorai bwense acho kwanira na na hegati yebintu bya kwande to mwakuriye to mutinye kominarimo yariko abikwikiranibwa nekero Omorai bwense abwateganga yo gucikirania emeroberi ao wiko mwaka w'iki wibere 20 nebere Bosio bochori obonene emeroberio nemenge kigima Omorai bwense abegetora ucikirania Omorai bwense na abegete inga na chukirania obwaga chibwe chibara gwetani kilomita 500 ime yechingongo ao chinse ya Kenya ngati emeroberi yaye meroberi obwaga chi ibwe chinyomba chiri golense nemeroberi abegete moto kabisa karangana cyo kunye kwandra nyinigo onabwa temeroberi yo gosime kemete igwetani chi billion emerogose 50 billion trees wiko mwaka w'iki 2025 naibere timeti wikarabonega ngaye ebintu ibekere kuri ne guchiteko bikwandra amano manyo manege siasa nabo igoro Omorai segete negeto gen sokoti bitonere gaiga Innocent Onyango kilomita wetani kilomita wetani chimia isana imeyense yake
yechipara bakachire
anna sama tukagwango
kero gukwanira igoro yo kwagacha chipara igo kogenda kwagacha myundo msingi totebe ni chibara nchiroro ngona goteba ali gitange kiri linge bwenete kurusi ukuru na Ivasha kegende baka Ense ya Kisumu na ande nyiwete magwagwa ngwetakira ng'abusobo sobo John Kibati uru Nairobi ane railway line ntotete koranga ngakichi kobage korekana nando isekurigirira Dani Ense meyu mwakoria Omorai bwense konye baretire company ya Adani eche kwaga chigetikia JKI lakini bono deal ye gakoraki ekagwa ntu aroche nyagosira Raila Amolo Odinga gagosoka gatebanga oinu murobeli ore nkomuya gocha Ense ya Kenya ntutete koigwa Omorai bwense na tebanga ntubwene tikoba negetike kuri Jomo Kenyatta International Airport kyoka igo ntutete koranga esemiundo msingi chibare chi stadium neraye ye mokorokanga Talanta Stadium nero tumanyanga toro toto tuligerelinga ngayekire igo kero Omorai bwense achikobaga kurwa address ni nyingene taso okwagacha chibara okoligererino na bakenya banyorera match nestima ebi ne bintu biri achikobaga koligereria nana so wekiranu elitonyara ko batokoranga kieko gendera nigo igo tuligerelinga kururiri batebete nga deal ya dan yabere cancelled na ninyorete igayikwanirete ase Ebunge officially no araletinga konyomurobiri twatwaro partnership uri kurunga government and private sector partnership orusi wororo ntuli uchikogendera na dani na atotebi umuchando ulibono koreki orarekani kurworo ego rende nebintu biri twegene to Omorai bwense achikobaga kwana lakini dani ntagete producer ite toro kibu na assassinini Omorai bwense nere buna togendete no kwana nere nagendete ku exchange notes buna agendete ku yaliga nikogenda ase bunge nyegenete producer ite nebwate clip yakibuno Omorai bwense ariko bakakumira nerombeli ariko ranga address yali abwate netingete.
That should be one paragraph. Yeah. 57 and 58 should be one paragraph. Yeah. Check.
41.
41. Yeah.
Next.
Omwanchi muligereri unakwarora bwino Omorai bwense dan unakwarora no Omorai bwense abantu kwarorira abunu Hussein Mohammed babo bitok ngairete no rabu abantu bali bakuru think tank ona abun inere message nere message ligereting akere sentence yebekire nere boronge koyi bako kumonyera 41 dimanje tinga batate kora verifiable figure rafaji ko tatego zira bakenya bako tate 41 million
ego ngeta 41 ku parliament
na boto koliga jatore siligo tumeka ego na boro chenga mirobeli nere top gear Omorai bwense bunagendete ko chichako chako kwana na bakenya inki yekora tugutwara state of the nation address inyegenete ngaba bamatebiriye kirenga clip ngere kare mambye kera twarenga somurobiri to soko bwakire kiare ngoro twabekera no embali twikaranste na baro twari kuburania mabuli masinini Omorai bwense nabwate burden gusumu sigo mona somo gongoye bukuruchire chinyinge I hope ya address ya lero nibwata marora Bosio lakini amarora yibwate gochibosio tebase gotuka nechire chinyinge mono abakenya babatenga torekirani chiri tubwate engakia ya mona arocho mubunge okoroku mwangi kionjuri okomotebinga Omorai bwense nje nae no tolense meyemo ama mocho tubwate boni gaba Kenya abange bagutubulinga nigo tokorwo chire chinyinge igo negatie bintu birinyegenete dan Omorai bwense aho chikobaga koligereri na no mona nyara kobaga koranga yago akoirense yae gochibosio amaroro na yuru na anda asebwango iga ototebiri igo tokorengereri iga iga average
tuna bake
bono tutagete tororenga aiga asago chikobaga kurigereria ngakitoko nyara ko batoko gendegoro ama baga yichigas naro nigenteke mu Omorai bwense aho chikobaga kwanera mwako uri gatotebetinga kuikera umwaka bw'ichiru 2023 mutinyo gatano kabere kwa nyaba Kenya wetani 1105 elibwe yamo elibwe yamo abatano kwa nyabanyore chigasi imense na abroad yani jinse iskoyense ya Kenya igete nyere tuma tukurigerelinga ki abakenya abanyorete chigasi ngakie ntwaroche omuwaziri bwamagana ichise chisco kakora linga abakenya bali chinse chisco baretire gwetani ekerengo gitigi chibese they was born gatingo Kenya lakini ngoligerelinde it was around some billions chialinge besenke egere tuligerelinga emirobeli etubegete asaba Kenya baito bakoenda chinse chisco ngakyo gendete kokori igeki nigentu kelinyegenete ase biribigo chikoba bigo kwane rudan bira chikoba bikorigirwa no Omorai Bwense
kabisa kwene ine kotatebanga ni chira chinyinge sana gitogorira abakenya twakonera amangana y'echira chikibara tokanya amangana y'echira chia amangana aria ya yo gitsimekemete kimete gose kwa amangana gose mekemete gerenga kyo Omorai Bwense ngero abandi timete nabagokira abandi bagenda to yakere koko igo babatebanga Omorai Bwense nabwate umurubiri bose mekemete 50 billion ko mwaka 2027 twarama tukabongana yakasmekemete kurenyo semuro bose mekemete nsengima umurubiri ria right kuru esenyo mbene yo bari
ntara iranelia umurigereri nara natebwo twakire simi ale soko
yo maka mjamrago
mbia tulengaki
inali ko kwana sama ngana mwana to kwana njote na mayale lakini ndio kuna kusilia jo ni ya gato ligere dio wa gali kwa mangana imu kwana ebintu bigo kwana ri kwa tayo asengi jo no ano musio yo mungai ni kometari angalende torolera ya kwera amageni ali motoletere bali mukire babwata ni rie bakali ko beka chibese bara ojo ko chimata to gote ko ronga nkore ko beka na baka the end of this year bono asiba ko tara ba te banga twalikira bali mwa twalikira aba akona baja ko beka namba nabi esengi ja bali mwa bali kiuna kwa ukakale ko beka na ko sinaba ngao inde yose kera ko ne bo chikwalero Entonces tora accepting akere kene gwitania ya kwani kuma asengi ja kwani kuma na gwika ina ya lero
turarigereria Omorai Bwense nakwanete igoro yokwiyeria magori no nyene ya moyo ching'eke chiri togosimeka nuruchinga nchiye irigo chance gererende totebe ngatu asukire go Bosio unaba Kenya
yo mwaka sama ngana yo kuruka na tukurigereria sese moyo kuyeria bintebi ntwanya korora muntu oteba ngango genda nyiri uguyo egintu gikutubwate Kenya yaito nyendiri umuntu akomanya buna bone kibagukwanira bamukwanira aso bomotata etama guta atimbuke paka 8 shillings per liter era mauta yese kwikiraga bwa sitokukwana kire gende kibagukwana geko barahizi lakini waije otabanga tokwenda to yiri ubu sito yiri uguyo kingekoba ende bona bona sa yese buyo boyete kido chikende pine ryoki
ryoki oroche
ne ryoki ndoche
okay
igo bona sa bantu bali bali busiaria igo aki tiatoteme tiko tegera kinja totema jiba tu iwa kwana
egento Omorai atebe to mwaka oringa nachiko ba tegera abana inchi no igenete ng'aso mwaka oyo bategereire kerengo kiri buya ake kubwariri kerare guchikukwana
ngezo ngotebia ase Omorai Bwense kinga kiarenge kuri ikikura kintangani iya toeta matobu ya pipa katukakwana biyonse lakini pa nao yogo kwana kurwalia itero jimoina
okay
ngobo kulibuata kokoko ndiri kubuateka
okay
ngobo tole bosa
okay biyamono negure none ngoko ekobwabu biyamono asebirengera byawe asante sana nindo choyo omugo wakaga igatika turabwata tumaye kwigwe clip keroro ale soko ngaki weire buya Karen
weire
najagire ko bamanya mariete najagire ko bamanya mariyo gya matukaya
na woko managa gina ro igwate ire Karen mukero ro no mamu awakera ora rede gajibona kero na aro yo mwe kira bungo okwani rede mo kwa kata wanga kata bintu bije dipono boyo kwa magana otete na bungo kato ko ya ni ka ndi mente tekere ndo kamende tabiri yo do ko ndituka boyo wa bwe mbia sana na ire rede no bwana du bonda magena akini bwana rede bintu ko ne bintu ajibuto sugwe to korera
ndagere ro ne rikiage
ya ya ndo gade biage ko se biage ne jiro bire
biage ne jiro bikare
ya gire jiro to ko ya to biru no to se bege ya no to gere jiro no to ko ya to usika du no ndo ka di mangana biage ga to no bu lo ba ndo ande ba ba to kana du abeke du ada ko ai ga ke bi ko to ka ga no kanya sio ko ri ye be ko ga te ga ko na ro ko ye ko ndo bu ya ora rede nduati tomarete la kinere biare vira vinto buga dinenda la yoko ngade sukari ge to kongere ya binte vinge maguta binte ga kitigana to bueno sena ya bwana na moko na dara na bwana waro yo ya ta pero vinto bigu.
Okay, mbiya mono. Asante. Uyu akuru Karen na mashabiki yalito nara yamanye.
Makonsana rishabiki ya matukamani.
Use kuligereria kurwa sesemo ya kabere producer ngwante biri clip kitongerekere tayari dani. Igoro ya inflation. Inflation imatekere kuligererwa ase chisemi kiri kya insiraisi. No kuligereri ngakituko nyara kwa batuko gure bintu na amagori yebintu. Omorai Ense na tebete nga amagori yebintu akoreki airanirese. Na ande enchireri tware konyora umuchando nonyene ni economy yitu yari ngaso ubutantanu agateba gwikira umwaka uri bwikiri 2024 konya yakoreke yanyorire igintu gikuru kwa kuchaka kuyiria amagori na go stabilize kuchakorekana nga yachakire ko toerera buya
ana amagori y'ebintu buna moyo nanya kwandrete
ni ndo chabaligereri bagendete ko wakara kinende tutete turewe clip ekyo to kuri clip ekyo to kwira na Ense mende abaligereri nabo bagotoye feedback na barabuna bago chagege na banga barayi bali baitu bale asa Ebunge ria rero egera batotevinga ngikegendete.
Proud to report that the macroeconomic indicators point to a positive turnaround and an upward trajectory. Allow me to highlight a few milestones that underscore this progress. The shilling has stabilized significantly, appreciating from Kenya shillings 162 to the dollar in February 2024 to Kenya shillings 129 today, a remarkable gain of 20%. This recovery has restored confidence in our financial markets and significantly reduced the cost of servicing external debt, creating fiscal space for our development imperatives. Inflation has declined dramatically from 9.6% in September 2022 to 2.7% in October this year, the lowest rate in 17 years. This achievement has been the consequence of favorable weather and our deliberate efforts to support farmers with affordable inputs, including subsidized fertilizer, leading not only to increased production but also productivity and lowering the prices of many cereals, including maize, pulses such as beans and peas.
Mwanchi muligereri buno igwete no Omorai Ense. Kera Alese Sterling ninyorete kera Omorai Ense umukoro Uhuru Kenyatta ari chikosoka kurwa suburai ese bintu biri ari ko ba blamed go sari ko bagakubori gunga bitarekerana egati yabo no gotebunga economy yense ya Kenya yagure agateba gakurwa bisi gatigete economy ya Kenya kerenkong use kurigereria address ye yarenge ya kabere yo Omorai Ense egatebete nga onchoire yani okore turn around ibintu byarenga sa kongmono obibekire byachakira okariki botoerera agateba bona bakenya mbagwenete konyora amatunda bona amatunda anaro tutete kumanya dan abakenya banyorire kibesi cyasoira umubuko abakenya banyorire injira bakonyora kirigintu gekogendera indagera yakire
yakugesokuru emegondo
na nderende bunagoteba ngani gotukorengereria asange indo cyo mwanchu muligire mbagandete gwa kesimi ngo batugendera gwaka ngo bwatatule lakini ndende dani sigintu kelinche ntete gwatebi amaswali abananchi babwata mange timanye tigose serikali iranire nsoko ngaki biyoro mugasoyo
biande
ngoto kwana nera ningoto kwana nera so mugasoyo
pito biero goro kadiado
tatebi yanko nkioga netio Omorai Ense akwanera se umwasobono egekagie chitaika 20 kiri Bosio piyamono uyu gataka ko tuamanyire ubiro mbiyamono guruka jiado alo soko
innocent
ngaki mwako minto
gogo kwana neri choni mayako tinse mane chate birigo
ngakiri choni mayaka mbi yole kuruke biriga
kebiriga ambu yere mbaligere tu yakapisa soko na ron kurigereria
asante sana
okondore mu direct to mun kwana ri nanya ngau
okay
ilanko boliga Omorai Ense igato tebe kinya sango terego konya kero muntu Taki atago to tebi guru ya sabu ne to wenerete gokora. Ekiagera turkoro rese gutuira gukia. Igoko genda gokorikirwa mariogo. Wate bigwa erioge ineri kachiogore. Eri ikoebore kwawe benado marioga aria makomu kwa ikirwa kugura. Taki naende gento kende ya kabere innocent. Igoro yechi sendi. Yo tu amanyete mu mwana gakire university ngwa eskuru kisi egwa kamene rekari. Lakini bono bagote bigunga ibeza kinyinge no muri bori okorwa. Na ibono tugukia na itokorwa. Ndoro kia tugukia itokorwa.
Pia mana. Asante sana Lichon. Kwa nini director na ongolia mali kwa ni wewe. Alensoko. Ingo to kwana nere.
Yo mogo kwana no mariba.
O mariba tatebyango.
Korongai.
Nga kirongai mbiyere.
Korongai mbiyere no mugasubuka. Ono nchege tongo kwana nkiringa Omorai ito egenda gukwana. Ebingo koranga ga gutobisia amaiso tuweba. Ebinte binge iga ukwana egentare gokora buna tenete raga tebangere ne no moto wasora igari koira na magega ebinte byabanda abaise to gutumeka in fact yatuyire
okay
nabo ense yare kogenda buya lakini bona gukwana gento nkeyo
okay
keokorekana
pia mono
ekina gitoka nitigenda ari gukwanira abantu abake torore naki abantu abake ngokonya katore gose tubekire gonde ye y'abantu abanene
mbija mono asante dan chisimi chigenda tego changa enta tuvuga teyu
hello Nsoko TV hello Nsoko TV Mnu to kwana nere na kurwarali Muyande kabisa wairawe Peter.
Toto kumetina tango to kwa nenda gereke skagire.
Wakwanira mngane ikinya gitari inga buchinse machenya miya kinya gitari nchire gabu ne gitari ya nyamira inga kiora te uri bo bwenya mwana marioga sense meyo
Oino ro mutando Omorai to kwa te ko Makina jiko toreja bona bantu baitu bakure nchara bona ndo manene kimasini agireti ata bona na bona kimasini abantu bae wemiremo
bia mono dan iwete buna bagateba
uyo kwanira mangana yecha miti machine ko tora chichai richo rima yakokwanda mangana sha na bigono no yunero kuchinsa bachema kwanda mangana sha koranga mu cyandwe tenoro sense meyo oya sha richo rima yakara kwara manga kisemi abegori bonega bagote bakana chibesa kenga chotsi maminja ya Karesi University una tomete ngabane go baga kanu ni serikali wetre ekiombikeria kya help
muchando korekana nororo Uise kurigelia abantu bande chibese kera bakwanda no nyagitari dan abande bae sokiri mugaka naro yo mweli etali ali arabulire bono iga uchite baka no Ense nyumba y'uburari ya Nation Media Group ali uri gocha kirenga kya goteba nga gakogenda otebigwa igetono keliki ya kansa gekine geke ekerengo gete kemaye kuisanira kuchikonyora funding ya sha kwarore negatie bintu biri abakenya bagwetera nyegene to Omorai Ense kera totebetyo murobilyo yo ni gore umuyabu no bwenerete no bwenerete bono gwikiraniro na address y'ebintu ebikorekana gatima
ne bintu bikagire Omorai Ense ngucyara gukwana kiteka kini cyose kurbono igekeke sana kire mutu korenga ngo ikare mutu garia igatie bintu y'abantu igweta bakanya bana tegwa kakisimi na kolera bakwana kisemi sana banta bakwana kisemi bakwana nendagera mona bakwana kisemi bakwana nendagera bakwana na mangana yobo chenu korenga umucyanoro nande korenga nga Omorai Ense ina abo manyi bari baye bamwikeria mangana ayu kegera no bagota no bari ground nde korenga ngo cyargo kwana mangana ayu nga yikera nene ese birengo by'ikisemi
okay
melo Nsoko
ngote kama yago yanga leke
Ndio ndio hiyo kana mambo kuna matebanga serikali kuna nyole ngote amore nga kile sankiri challenge kaya uchumi ya renge 9 point something kaire ni gwa paka 3 something bona ande mayanga nyaranga ndi kwata mandeni ya mangi bona isiri ndi do ni ngora nga gotera yo uchumi tera irana nega ntokene go tuitanga ntoma watenga magori ya bure Omorai nata kero to mabantu ba wiki masina ntyo tele ko balinga osino boyo kutakero ba kya singa ya maguta ba kya na ke ne skale ba kya singa na hangaya ko menga kiri ya kinyata matwaro ba kama masina ana ko tainga ngone ya ngende zanga ni boli ba wa bwana uchumi okwenda na wane tukake twanya ngende bireibo akwana bikake twandire kumanga ki ko ni bya ngotari ko ni nandi ndi bitete ko kwenda ba kya ba Kenya ari ndi bide bide
okay
ana maude nyirwa no wa iria bante ba kuri bintu bire siri yani bintu mbiri bakora gutugira ekire kiri nyata mona kwanere
pia mono igo kwigure abakenya gintu bagoteba muntu tayo ko baikange abugurie ama ganiabo se kurigereri ngakiri twakinete kira tiringo ngurigereri guciare kwanyara ciabisiru nkwanda baringe jiduka barigereri amasasi igo nkebsi yaburi abakenya boniga bakare ko consume ibintu binde batamanye diese byakorake ese byaruko negative ibintu byateba umurigereri ibinatebire nga mbarabekirwa systems chindonge cyokorotota nakoranga ky'abakenya bakonyara ko bakonyora libagese ibintu biri bagotumeka
Akwanira mangana mangi sana kwanire mangana Omorai bwense gutuma abantu baye wikaga yende babanye kumwirira machiwa lya bwendete ngagari nsaye mangana tari bya bintu mbiri buya timeti wose Omorai bwense ndoche nabwate emiroberi yaye yo kwira abantu balinsa kini karenganga nkori ndoche ebyombe bya Omorai bwense bibigotare mese ya Kenya na kukendera bakore emiroberi yaye empowerment yamagendo ine batari kumwikeria nkirigendera tense
Dan again tondigeretie Omorai bwense nabegete kurunga okoirania uchumia sebwenerete economy recovery plan lakini ngento naligere ngumuroberi oyo bado turakora emirimo kubwatekana n'iki sibi twabwatire kubwatekana n'abantu to interact na barabo nabekororekana nga murubiri turakorekana egento ndigereti ngari baga eligolire gatiga iga egati y'abakenya n'Omorai bwense n'etimu iri ekora onero Omorai obwata abasemi abange sana abaraya abasemi abange sana obisi yaige bwata abasemi nande batebanga Omorai onde bwensi obwata abasemi bara abange se kerenge kaminekyo igabwene tekorozi decisions kire kinyingi ototebiri tole average gatia
nakwana
bono igata itegutuira wechibosiari lakini timatinga nanyo leto bosemi akamanyanga asata itekulibiri eri bageri rigatima iga nili tambelire abande bakare ensari batarabuguri bali atigete bari gata baringe bottom timatiku emisemi yake 3 na bagatotebya sabanta ababwate baringe bottom ose bakine bakoriki bachirigoro ntagete umuproducer itarato bekire clip Omorai bwense ari gotebanga abakenya nigo bakona korengereria average ya ninyigenete gati Enkwana lerachi gukwanira mpaka totebinga kya gutuira se first world nations
na twaraga kwana sana kwandikira utarachinse buna Katari ntwa maragaria nabako kwanigora ya Kenya kwenda first class na amaono sana abwate timetiko sana chika bagako onyekira niko ndiko mu director ya tse clip ekyo nyarako batoge karora mwanchu murgere
shida friends shida tuko naye Kenya ni average thinking, ordinary, usual. Unless we up our game, unless we up our ambition, unless we think about the extraordinary. And I like the person who prayed here. He said, excellence and integrity in his prayer. We have to begin to think about the excellent. Wachana na hii average. Hii average thinking hii ndio inatuletea hasara. We look at everything, we think it is impossible. We look at that, we think it's impossible. Others did it. Why can't we do it? So I really want to persuade you as citizens of our great country. Let us agree to change Kenya. We can do it. Let me give you one
Okay, umwanchu muligeri na buligereti abu no Omorai bwensa bairiga gukwana na ne mono dan. Again to Omorai bwensa arorire nga inchira tuko kurigeria ibintu biroro. Ata tegoteba tube kobaremu. Ege songo ngoteba kirenga onyo tabwa tobwo bonanga nga yorerero.
Kioba na kemenyete.
Baba tebe kemenyete lakini umusongo yateba nga onye ndiyo tarengo mwoba nanga nga yoberete bono iga. Chingaki chindo konyora na bubwate potential urakore gintu gete. Lakini esenye nchobwato bwa nga yaya ndagenda nguse tekonyarikana bona atete goteba nga chingaki chikire tokubugurie risk n'aba Kenya n'abune economy yense ya Kenya tobeke chibese chito to direct yororo twekwabe twebeke sebirengo by'echinse bune chiri chikuru ku Singapore na liyo ekera no nyine chinse chitu etana ine kera bago ikaransa bateba ligere lya magenderare Kenya ngakiaba Kenya ubugima bwa chinchiri I don't know gose ekengere practical gose nkebe asobwango na lakini use kurigereria amakabesa ito dan kera tokogenda inchireyu etubwate budget yeli wantebya yarenge 32.5 billion wantebya US dollars kero chibeka gochese chibes chia Kenya wateba chiri chi trillion inye chinu gutaibire amakabesa aito ni chibesa irengare igare wetani siringi chiri chi trillion 15 nemo igonge ine miaka 3 gosene tokogenda togokora egintu gikuru kugwa kana makabesa
enusie budget
aya budget yetu bwate 4.2 trillion chibesa irenga tugosangira likorwa se kiombe gito gya kyare no mukenya gaendete gukamu mono tunyare ko batugwikirania magani ali budget ye gokonyora tirigo isana ngaitu gocha twarigereria kere budget ye toko erosi etukurigereria ngaitu chikurwa tukurusi chibesa no ne kero rebu gogaria kwanyore chibesa ukonyora siringi 500 kero wikaransa nsali nege ko rokonyora umuntu akogende duka osiberwa gachumbi giji siringi 5 obutulire sabuni ye siringi 5 opimirwa obusinege kombe kemo obugulie suguma etabwati chinyanya Kenya ntomenyete nyenche kamine twegenete ngabono binte mbisaini gose togendete kuigora chimbaba tutaite binte binge lakini okonyoro mweli bwili tuko ebintu biri tuganeti ntobwati potential yokoraki yoko budget igo ase Enkwana yo gutwira ase chinse chiri chikurunga first world nations I think Omorai bwense nato erese because ne risk ere ngakito chiko toko gendoro
lakini karago kwandara mangana ayaba Kenya babeke chibeza chiabo baekeze to riski anene umwaro monde wa Kenya nigo manyete Ense ya the poverty line chibese chibago chiko kweza ngai tuko chiko chirusya kera bakenya bangi binabone ga manyete Ense yobotaka
lakini nakobolia nga toligereri litorore gose ntoereswe astochiko batukurusi chibese ko finance ibinte bitotagete nyegenete se chitaike chitelite 15 ne mugo chibosiaiga Omorai bwense gagoika asenseme ya magacho Ebunge nene na nyare ko bagakorwa state of the nation address na gutumanyinga itole na anamo nintubono totebiringa ekerengo kilitokurusi kukurwa nigyo kurusi gunsa tonyare tokwenda iguru Omorai bwense na narite kubuguria abantu kurunse obaira kuchie semende na gaiga totete kumanyanga nabuguria aba Ense ya Kenya kurwa second world nations chinse chibwa to muchando third world actually kuika chinse chiri chiki agendereire bose natobeke sekerengo kya gategaro
Omorai bwense na kwandanga toba average thinkers we need to be excellent in fact yataba we need to be excellent in fact ultimately in community in terms of being excellent no to be antoba average in terms ye obwonchereria ose in terms ye chiseme ose in terms yo korigia emeremo ultimately nkiane Omorai bwense agokwanda ultimately asama okorenga no korrakwo nkiko Omorai bwense aroche gose ninke ngakiate tabakenya wa excellent in which way
abakenya banchira nenga Ense ya Kenya mirubili bwate menena beko yenyara ikire kyarengereti ina neliese erainie yamo na ndege ntukilia rengereti ngelinga abakenya batigo criticize imirubili ya serikali yendo giata tamine tingelinga abakenya barusie bina biri bakoira se bigambero ekera batagete imirubili ya serikali korekana inchebuna innocent na bondigereti kina kyarengereti
tiga mete chinza chinke kurwane go mwancho mweria Omorai bwense William Ruto nakagere gwika mutubu wesio obwebunge nene sentunda ya gatatu bono korwa so Omorai uchiago kwanira igoro ye ama osigoro ya ibintu biranyara ko bakawikirana na biria abegete nchira go chikirania bakenya eriko arangense ya Kenya ngo tukere mutu esenchira ere ya bene twa kwanirega iga intuno go kwanda tutwa go kwanda ne birengede bitunga na chikwanda mugene chisemi na chikunda mugena ayo oborendi mirime yense ya Kenya na chikukunira mangana aria ya oboremi na chikukunira mangana bunaria yobochenu meyense ya Kenya kurengana twakwanire amo no mumanyito mangana yige siasa imega iga yore Innocent Onyango na abigo tochikukwanda mangana mangu mochimugira Timothy Innocent kuseno gwatenganene gusena butokora skamutu tokwande chitaro cha motu kabwangu gachomora ibwense twaro chengo tomaringa abantu empowerment lakini empowerment yoko ari yakiri yaendera nsake tori mora ibwense bono kagotara sana chire bukamba bono ari ngomo yari ku bukamba igagwete western yakenda bukamba tuchakire bukamba tumanye egocha geiga western bukamba no aringa matuko wiki yaeta aringa bukamba gari sitara ya matukali ane ese nonkaranga abandi bakombodia aya bali barabwatandi baye kwa bantu beke kambi gaiga nonye na matuko gwetania atano ese county area ya Kitui Machakos amo na Makueni ese county ya kusema Machakos mo rebwense na iraro 110 billion sechi county chiko sosorongorira aruabo kamba ase housing allowance mu Innocent Onyango mo rebwense na bikoro 64 billion kucheko kacha enyomba kiricho okonyora goseri kirirense ase chigo chiko chinyomba chiribu emerongene na 44,000 units chinyomba icho atabate chiko kacho mo rebwense ni mokigu ni sana yechibesa gochira dige kabu yechibesa agatiga gaje bukamba asaba 39 modern markets. Okay, soro kongororia ruwa bukamba yani chichiro chirichekerero chichire 39 na baigo ase na bakagakorire ira aboroke bari bechi skuru au gochara kubagachira chinyomba chiri cyo bararo se chi hostels chiri hikomi na isano arongorwa bukamba yorukora una Kalonzo Musyoka Maito muraibwense kerairiro buraibwense nigakoba ubwa Kenya bonse etaro ya yengo yeligereria se ebirengo bibere litangani eyoko ire obokoreri bwa serikali guchiase aba Kenya egera batware gendo ikuru kwa matumaini ngebintu mbichikoba bigokorekana egento giya kabere kelinga muraibwense gachiete ase chinsemecho asoko kore gento giri kuru kugwe yakire campaign use kurigereria kerare ngabo kagendete gwe yakire campaign ilitandire ngo chanate byo murigereri kuru kwekoko eko actually no ko won kwaro choko ruwa egento ikuru kubuna aba buno lyoko okuwon abarayi bali bale sense melia opposition bona abuna bwa akirite koko kubatebinga ase birengera bibiri byabo bwate byo chikoli gyo burayi bwense tibabwati ya maroro yokogenda Bosio na koirense ya Kenya Bosio ase chinga kiye chinande digaso eta sense melia musike Kalonzo Musyoka kwa moro kinga ne omurayi bwense nande nere ubwate ense menene yo batebanga kibintu birachikoba bigokorekana igo chibese chichikogenda ase etaro ya magendero ntwarigerere tinga kiye yamo ekera abasaye barubikanite ba genzi audit report baga netinga eobisi omurayi bwense chibese ringe koyo eobisi omu first lady yakabeiroro bagatebire yabwate budget igo nigatie bintu biri bari kotakabarigereri nande bonekero koronyoro murayi onye gakoira magendera igakuru from the national budget elia rosiri bose ikinichi bestire office of the president chikwera magendero kabisa sana ingati etaro yo mwere kabisa yo murayi bwense yakora sarungura bukamba na akora etaro yaye entambe sana se chinsemecho tukarumo cyo mureria na bakaba agakobekera abantu chibesa chinyinge sana so bwangu sana kotebunga cyo chinza chiri cyose kuruboneka kwenda tore yamase mbakasa magacho a parliament kolete to kwande etaro yaye western wara kumbura so chibesa chinyinge sana 14 billion housing allowance to kwanda so bwangu 2.5 billion market arafu ebinte binge sana kakamega bano ne bwati yasti patete uchikoba airport so bwangu
nindigereti dan tiantebenga chigire chitaika emerongebere chietire maga chinsai sai na satobona bugaso na kilingo manyi gukorwa asense melia kabere studio buno mwancho muligere ligerete korwa ase enga yago bunese screen itoto yebaganete kabere igo oyino murayi bwense Dr. William Ruto orange goso asamaga cha Ebunge na nemona asege keke togendete kono gokoerera igango nyara kobagiri kubikwa asoboene no boere litonyare ko batukumanyangi yachikobaga kwa nasumu basobono dan gaendete kombolinga chibestiria bigeta samagendero igo buno mwancho mulige nagotebirio murayi bwense keke kurubono igango nyara ariko bagagosoa ase bunge nene na ebikale byo mwancho muligereri nigobire ebyechi bunge ibere chikoba osobwamo ikurunga by camera abwa sibono konyore senate nere kunyara kabage konyora libagana goikaransa na bajumbe ili banyara ko bakomotegerera umurayi bwense umwakurie kerachiete ase bunge dan nigarenge na paka omokonyo Ebunge bwense ngakieyo lakini ndero ise kumurigirerio omokonyo Ebunge bwense taiya sense meyo yakogera nigagenda kuikirana asa matanga yamo asa umuswati oyo mugurunga beti bayo moteli kurwa wegesa kukurwa sense meli yabo ikoyo uyo nyari tukaba usiri bugima bwayi go mwanchu murigire buna twagotebiri bunogendete kurigiria se screen yago so mubasobono ni go bono Omorai bwense kurwa gekageke kurboni gakonyara kabaga gwikirana sama gacho Ebunge nene elianyara kaba gakonyara kabaga gukwana na Bakenya na namono ase Enkwana eliganire eganyerere nage kwara no nemirobiri ito mwanchu murigire twanyara kaba tukoyikorika senjire kamineje litonyara kaba tokobwatia na kororanga yabwenerera bokogenda kurwa birengera byawo gocha igase studio namba ito studio nigere 0788666663 nabo igonyara kabago tubwatia sense mail ya Facebook nabo to follow bunensoko TV nabo igonyara kabago tubwatia sense mail y'umtandao o YouTube aso subscribe na namono naburigereti abanyanyimbo dani babekire bareti
abanyanyimbo bari borendi
babekire bareti
kuruko presidential parade
ikorwe presidential parade ego signify Omorai bwense okaye weskenene nkosware asama gacho Ebunge muri kyo itolinet nyambane no ara sense me Ebunge namono asikirengaki nabe otomanyinki kendete kurwa sense me yuli bagali banyore baguchikoba bagotegerera ali Omorai bwense aguchikoba kwana bono kiresingo kwana tuli na mate winongo chakere kolikwa Omorai bwense akagereye goika chinga kurubonega chiteka chinde cyose kurubonega ngo tugetenga Omorai bwense omwanchi muyeria nko gware asama gacha manna Ebunge skwegwire oyo minto wega Innocent yante abagere ba camera eyore nengencha nebuna aba senator abalia hamo nebungerie senate hamo nebunge ne ya ababunge igo baramo erinde korora na kuyigwa Enkwana yo Omorai bwense igoro ya magenda yali abekire igoro y'ebintu birabere ko bakokanya hamo na mangana mange sana hali akagero cyo kwana unatoye kunya gukwandira kaigo mwacho murire to kwandira mangana ali cyo kwandira kati yabo kisemi tukwere takagarete na kwandira na kunira mangana ayo borendi emergency ya Kenya secretary borendi koraonera Kipchumba mkomene goti ebintu binde to kwando boremi yekro ne mudai kago to chimudai kago eri tukore kona reka kwana mangana yo boremi na ebintu biri abere ko bako gako beka eriyo kwane kinga oboremi kokera na bore hanene hiso boremi bolia abekemeria kiri yechae amo one chibanda imeyense ya Kenya heri konyoranga ense ya Kenya nkonyoriere ndagira esaine ngati ebintu biyonsi bigo chiko kwana nyoranga abali abasiesi balia na mbali ruta bete ko bakako bachora nende ko bakorega asi okoboko asokoboko no Omorai bwense igo amangana aliyonsi babwate korenga ngo ikiware egwetera Omorai bwense biribyo bakorere Omorai bwense bakomoikere twakorere keneke igamangana aliyonsi HCS cyabere kwa chikiranye ngo ikeni gware rero parliament rutongonya kwana rari bagwetera as osegwetera senjera ere ya bene asakagera gukwana ndoche gabo na isko ya magacho y'Ebunge omwanchi mugireya aseno sakuberia gabo egari ya abanyanyimbo korengerie ne gari ya Omorai bwense utumega kabisa ego chagabo no orogendo rwinse kigema hoteba ngarogendo buna aroya rwe toto isi sendo chengano Omorai bwense bono oikire ime ya parliament bono kigimaga mwanchu murigili sekoligereria bwase yamasemo oyunkithure professor Kindiki ndagate bigwari ngasa muyega bwa matanga koraga ikoro na kwirana se bwango achiko baga kumwariga ni Omorai bwense kera kwa mu deputy president ikira ni osomo konyi Omorai bwense ikira ni asense mekamineyo konya nabwire tali gochoro akibone keraro lekanire nye igo asegekegeke Omorai bwense ngo charabu na general kahiriri no korekana no bwense na bagatokabu annemono igo bono lende negati ye biribwenete kobekwa kumwariga ni Omorai bwense gwikira na sense meyo kera chikobaga kwana na Bakenya asenchira gwikira nande tobegeteli so abwa sense meyo y'Ebunge nane muri kitolinet nyambane no ale tobasa gusukaga igensoko TV una togotebi to kumanyia ya maseya mukirike ndete gokoreka noro na ne mono dani buna twali goteba sebintu biri mwakoria gose kera Omorai bwense akwanete na Bakenya gakwanete ebintu byarenge 10 ebi ali kurigerera igoro yo uko imuki uchumi yaito endagera oburendi semi ne bintu binde timanye tinga asenkwane ya yaboniga ninkagerete ngabono ya chakira kobangana gosokere press release ase bintu birira chikobaga kwana toko binyora ngo ibekatora asembewe toko manyinga nkikeli Omorai bwense chikobaga kwana lakini ne nkwanega ne eganyerere mono anemono ekera twagotebia sababu tugotwarera state of the nation address gose Enkwana yo gukwanira abanyene Ense Hose Enkwana y'Omorai bwense gukwana abamenyi baye bense nelie senchere ya mokonyara kwa bagakwerera ebintu biri serikali yaye ebe yayikiraniri emeroberie serikali ya yebwate gochibosio amarore serikali ya yebwate nabo igeme chandelie egwetera ase chingaki echibono igo gabuguretie sindani ekorokia emechandelie roro ngakia chikobaga konyara koba gakora ya nyare koba geukuru nindo chabande bali bali gwakachisimiga lakini mwancho muligere buno ligeretie abwese screen ya mase ya mo no muraibwense oganyereire parade ya bekiru professor Kithure Kindiki yoro mokonyi bo muraibwense ikira SSMU bunenchera ya moyo kubeka marigani yokoranga muraibwense nyara koba gwikira noro elito nyara koba tokoranga ingikilio muraibwense ara chikoba gukwanera abanogeli be bunge umuske Moses Masika Wetangula oyore se bunge nene nero chikoba gakora omoyego uyu nabo igo gakubwatirana noli bwe senate okurukunga Amason Kingi aswa chikoba bakoranga banyara koba gukwana abajumbe na barumba bwa reactions bali baroro babwa reactions Ensoko TV una nago tebiri mwancho muligireli ni gotole mase yamo Elias togendete ko bwati na koranga na aligendete
kabisa aso muraibwense akere gwikirana gabo mwancho muligireli imeye mu ebunge osebunge nene hamoneri senate baramo street korero by camera tawote osomonu oli bwe Kenya morero inga gwikirana rigatore omokonyi oye Dr. Kithure Professor Kithure Kindiki wekire garia na ntwaro mukuru wa majeshi Francis Kahiriri no ale garia igati ya baraibande aho bari gahu kwegure ngakira ikare tukia bene yekorabo no omo speaker webunge ne yure Moses Masika Wetangula yure omo speaker webunge ya 13 parliament imeyense ya Kenya ne bikora biganyire sano mwanche mogera kwa ngana nayo seka na stega buto mase konyegara yare gotokorete ye masa ye mokorwa asamaga chama ne yebunge tochiko kworoke nikiri umuraibwense aho kwana na koruga buntu chukunya kwandro sobo ime nyoranga morikeito Linet nyambunde nyambane no abegete gari bikaro bya bene no abegete gari maya ya bene ne ya masa yamuntu kinyara komanya magega iyo muraibwense ko kwana nyani gontoka nditinga abarai aho abati abachumbe imbachikorwa amarorabo bachikorwa maoni yabo ibyo nsigo toka taraga imejense Soko TV goto mase gosuka to mase konyegero mwanchi moyo igotokana to kwandra ali igati iyo muraibwense abone to kwandra ali twarera gato renga abanyanyimbo balia parade ya muraibwense no bare gare kabisa igakona kenga se chinde chonse kurubona muraibwense gutambuka yo nyombe ya magacho state house na gutunumboka hagoika ase bunge ya parliament kunyara gutumanya osowime buna kwegwena sentinanga okomanya ninga inkikerie barika yokenanya na ngikeria abegetense erinde achikunyara kabaka wikirania emeroberi ya eneria yanya ko wikirania kuri umwaka wa yarenge garia neriye habeire ko baka okaraki kabo se atetende gochya wikirania anya emeroberi menga bwate muraibwense toche emeroberi ya begete gari obogachi bwechinyomba muraibwense na begete emeroberi yo kwagaja chibara nene ebara ya mausamiti ikere gochakibo chakero umwaka gocha erigabe ko bikoribwa rigokora rigokora okurubikana gwechigaria ne senga kiria ye Christmas ya sema kunyorange bare ye gutumika anabantu abange kerage korenganga hebinte binge sana guchiko kwana guchiko kwana mwisemi naboigo samutuka wenga tware abaru bari bekira Bechi University barenge gabu nkomanye gwanga oyo re first lady mama Rachel Ruto Innocent Onyango oyikirega wikoneke mwenye kabenenga za kinde cyose kurubono muraibwense kugwarime ya parliament kora Rachel Ruto oyo first lady ikire protocol neroro no muraibwense nero ikira SSMU sekoligero mwancho muligero no muraibwense bono konyara kabaga ukagwe parade na ni ko bono muraibwense ala samagacho ye bunge nene kuruga igasto gutangaso mwancho muligero ne chimitanga 15 kurwa segeta seni geito igiye Soko TV na nomo nona twagate muri keito Linet nyambane no ale asa konyara kabaga koranga unyara kabaga watotebikirike gendete tubigite liso na umuraibwense niga konyara kabaga kokorige kegotebeka traditional parade akonyara kabaga ikabwana kuri enchirere na nene mono obuno korkinga enchire ya mobile ndini obotingirie nabo igo bali babwenete koberoro bayikiroro na chinga kiji kurubono chinkengo nyaragari baso imeye bunge ga soro nigo bono nyegenete nga omobu amini omo nogelibwe bunge omoske Moses Wetangula nigakora linga asenchire ya bene muraibwense no ali imeye bunge kera nyare ko bagakora liboigo anyare ko bagakoira libagana ko nyara ko bakako batambuga bali banyare ko bagoikirana nere egati yabono mokonyo yebwe muraibwense Professor Kithure Kindiki igo ninga kia ya mumwancho muligere tuligere tingangi kili muraibwense ara ko bagakwana na bono buno ligere tigo nigo muraibwense agendrete ko bagakwaliga ningo nagasoga guchia asensemeli bunge na nigo aro mogeni yobene manyete kera muraibwense akogendoro
niga nkabu no mogeni
omogeni
rigunga abageni bakira eye Enseme ya musosoro saginduria ruwa esereka amini ruriro kubwatira neserikali tubwate executive tubwate Enseme ya legislature bwate ababunge nabo igo tubwate yebina chebina igo bono rero Omorai igare Enseme yoko rosya machiko anemo tonyara kwa tukuligire kago so ase bunge ye ntutagete ko Omorai bwense rero asama isogose na atebya ababunge nga ntwakwanira igoro yo obukurumi ino obukurumi mwino mbogenderete asenchire bweke nande uise kuligire ligaiga nindo cyane Henry Nyamweya gateba nigo bono Omorai bwense chikobaga gukwanira igoro yo obukurumi nabo igachikobaga gukwanira umwanchu muligire igoro ye chigasi agateba bukurumi nigo bobete igoro mono nabo igo umuchandure Ense ya Kenya nuko borwe mirimo oyo Henry Nyamweya gateba nga nigo obukurumi bori igoro nabo igagateba nga eserikali nigo ya sinyirwa kora emirobiri yaye esenyencho n'ekigasi na kiro kiyaburira
eye masemo Omorai bwense okorre separate ya gwetana nagaria na ngoroche nga ebendera Ense ya Kenya ni yere igoro kabisa nkorenga ne national anthem nyari go cheswa gari konde twamoringa otsokire kurugaria saba ke parade yo kora kurgeria abanyanyimbo baina connecting oberendi igore buja na nkorenga nga ne bonega kuna batri ne garia ne national anthem ko bakego tero kyanare emwendera heye gwashiria obomo gwashiria gwashiria unity ya itemi Ense ya Kenya na baigo obwanchani boria yakorruki magaria na bono haya masemo Omorai bwense igagandete kutachamu baratayo gochia ase Ebunge erienene nkorenga nga ngotebunga tikatogende mbakagaria Innocent Onyango aye maseyemo lindo mwanchi muliria yakubaga kuligeria ire chinga kichie chabene kuligeria na busonja ngikiri Omorai bwense aho twatritiko oria lero
biye mono nchumuligereri nabo kunyara ko bago kuligereri na koranki kiligendete kurwa SSMU oyunki mani shungwa okumwaligania Omorai bwense Senator Cheriot na morali tigango tunyara ko batukwe
Kina there on your screen saying hello to the president and that is the majority whip and the clerk of the Senate followed by the clerk of the National Assembly and other senior officials in the Parliament of Kenya. And this is part of the pleasantries that are exchanged before the president is ushered into the parliament buildings using the entrance to the Senate. And any moment now, the houses of parliament under one roof will convene for the special joint sitting of parliament, which brings together senators and members of the National Assembly for the much-awaited State of the Nation address by the President, the head of state, William Samoei Ruto, this afternoon. It is his third State of the Nation address, and he will tell Kenyans where the country is at. The President is heading towards the Senate chambers. That route heads to the Senate chambers, and after that, we do expect the president to make his way to the National Assembly chambers. These are live pictures from the parliament buildings brought to you by the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit in conjunction with the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. This broadcast is always available on YouTube, courtesy of the Parliament of Kenya YouTube channel. And you can also follow it on Senate TV, Bunge TV as well. And the broadcast is available also on KBC Channel 1. That's the main corridor that is leading to the National Assembly chambers. On your screen there is the members' lounge, and just behind the camera is the main highway that is leading to the National Assembly chambers. And thanks to the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit, the pressings of Parliament really have been opened up to the public on numerous occasions. You get the opportunity to watch beyond what normally happens during the normal sittings on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and during special sittings. It is during such occasions that you get to interact with the images that often you don't get to watch on your TV. And on a day such as this, when the president will be addressing the Republic, then you get the opportunity to view at least pictures from various sections of Parliament. On your screen, the members are familiarizing. In a couple of minutes, they will each take their seats. It is a huge assembly that is able to accommodate all the members of the assembly and the members of the Senate. And it happens once in a while, at least twice in a year. Such sittings have become a norm, especially in the present day Kenya, where the president gathers the members of parliament and updates them on the steps that have been taken to address matters, progress that has been achieved in the realization of the national values, and also he gets to submit a report for debate to the National Assembly on the progress made in fulfilling the international obligations of the Republic. Now, in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution and Standing Order 22, subsection 2, the members were notified actually about the special sitting of Parliament that is set to take place today, the November 20th, where the President will be addressing the members of the Senate and the members of the National Assembly. And just a quick recap of the procedure that will be taking place this afternoon. The prayer will be said by the Speaker of the Senate and followed by convocation by the Speaker of the Senate and the Speaker of the National Assembly. And then the Speaker of the National Assembly will invite His Excellency the President to make his address, and then the State of the Nation address will begin by the Excellency President William Ruto, and after there will be an adjournment. The Speaker of the Senate will begin, and thereafter the Speaker of the National Assembly will follow suit. The guests that have been invited for this important occasion are the former speakers, the Chief Justice as well, and judges have also been invited to come attend this State of the Nation address by the President, and the Governor of Nairobi County, where the Parliament of Kenya sits, has also been invited to come take part in this important occasion that we do expect to get underway in a matter of minutes. Just a reminder, the President has already arrived in Parliament, and any moment now he will be walking into the chambers, and that will signal the beginning of this important part of the Parliament calendar, where the head of state will be addressing Kenyans this afternoon. Now, Article 132, Sub-Article 1B of the Constitution requires the President to address the nation once every year and at any other time. Further, Article N32 sub-article 1C of the Constitution requires the President to, once every year, report in an address to the nation on the measures taken and progress achieved in the realization of Kenya's national values. Additionally, Article 132, sub-article 1C, Part 3 of the Constitution provides that the President shall submit a report for debate to the National Assembly on the progress made in fulfilling the international obligations of the Republic. In this regard, the President did convey a message to Parliament, and he conveyed his desire to address a joint sitting of the Houses of Parliament today, 20th of November 2025, and this sitting will begin shortly. On your screen, the Sergeant at Arms. This is the Senate side of Parliament, and the President is being briefed by the leadership of the Senate, and after that he will make his way to the Parliament, the National Assembly chambers. He will be walking alongside the two speakers of Parliament, and the President will perhaps address the Social Health Authority and chief as well the progress of onboarding Kenyans into this new health insurance regime. He is also expected to address the country on affordable housing. Where is the country as far as the building or the construction of affordable houses is concerned? The education sector will also form part of the address this afternoon, as well as the state of infrastructure, agriculture as well, and issues to do with security. Are Kenyan borders safe? The President will be appraising Kenyans on those issues as well this afternoon. There are the leadership of both the National Assembly and the Senate. There is on your screen a signal that the President perhaps is on his way to the National Assembly chambers. The Deputy President, Professor Kithure Kindiki, has he has left the Senate chambers and is now being directed to the Speaker's Gallery, where he will be taking his seat. The leadership, both the minority and the majority, are walking into the chambers of the National Assembly that is now within your view, and we do expect that any moment now. And there on your screen are the maces, the National Assembly mace on your right and the Senate mace on your left. They will be leading the way, followed by the speakers and the President. The part of the ceremony that takes place on the Senate wing is the signing of the visitor's book. He is a guest today, and in keeping with the tradition, he is expected to sign a visitor's book, both at the Senate and at the National Assembly as well. Just part of the usual tradition that accompanies the State of the Nation address. In keeping with the campaign promise, the head of state has used the State of the Nation address to update Kenyans on the Kenya Kwanza flagship projects. One of them, the affordable housing and the Hustler Fund, they have featured prominently in his previous speeches to Parliament. And today, the president will perhaps update Kenyans on how many houses have been constructed and what is the status of the Social Health Authority registration by numbers. He has often used his addresses to the nation to implore on Kenyans to address issues to do with health, saying that the Social Health Authority provides the best platform for Kenyans to get insured and guaranteed that their medical needs will be taken care of. And such occasions are used by the president to further drive the message home that the new medical insurance regime is best suited for the country, that it is better than the previous one. He has on numerous occasions encouraged Kenyans that the Social Health Authority is the best mechanism yet to achieving that desired health status in the country. Now, in his previous address, he did encourage Kenyans to register en masse so that they can enjoy the benefits of the Social Health Authority. And just there on your screen, just the Sergeant at Arms are preparing the way, and the speakers are on the move, and so is the President of the Republic. And now the march is on. They are headed straight to the National Assembly chambers, where the State of the Nation address will take place. The President all smiles, accompanied by the Clerk of the National Assembly, Clerk of the Senate, the Speakers of the National Assembly and the Senate, and Chief Sergeant at Arms. It is a very important occasion in the Parliament's calendar, and leading from the front is the top leadership of Parliament. On your screen, on the walls, are portraits of former speakers. The portraits are on display, and those who have been fortunate enough to visit the Parliament buildings, those are some of the things that you will see. And there the President stepping into the chambers, making the long walk to the front. I will now hand you over for this live broadcast of the joint sitting of Parliament, where the President will be with the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. My name is Edward Kabasa. On behalf of my colleague Gladys Mungai, enjoy your viewing.
Na tuombe. Ewe Mwenyezi Mungu, twakusihi ututazame kwa neema nyingi na baraka, sisi watumishi wako ambao umeridhika kutuita kwa nyadhifa za uongozi katika jamhuri hii yetu. Twakuomba utuajalie tuyatende na kufikia mambo yote atakayofikishwa mbele yetu kwa njia ya haki na uaminifu, ili kustawisha amani, ufanisi na heri ya nchi yetu na wale ambao haja zao umezikabidhi mikononi mwetu. Amen. You may be seated. Order, Honorable Senators. Your Excellency, the Honorable Dr. William Samoei Ruto, CJH, President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces, the Right Honorable Dr. Moses Wetangula, EGH, MP, Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Members of Parliament, Article 132(1)(b) of the Constitution provides that the President shall address a special sitting of Parliament once every year and may address Parliament at any other time. Article 132(1)(c) of the Constitution further provides that the President shall, among others, once every year report in an address to the nation all the measures taken and the progress made or achieved in the realization of the national values referred to in Article 10 of the Constitution. In addition, Article 247 of the Constitution requires the President, in his capacity as the chairperson of the National Security Council, to report to Parliament annually on the state of the security of the country. In this regard, the Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service, via the letter reference EOP/1 Cap.26/4A Volume 7/1, dated the 3rd of September 2025, informed the Speakers of the Houses of Parliament of the intention of His Excellency the President to address Parliament. Consequently, and upon consultation, the address to Parliament by His Excellency the President was scheduled for today, Thursday 20th November 2025. Pursuant to Standing Order 25(2) of the Senate Standing Orders, I notify honorable senators of the place, date, and time of today's special sitting via Gazette Notice number 16/518, which was published in a special issue of the Kenya Gazette on Wednesday 12th of November 2025. Further, together with the Right Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly, we notified all members of Parliament and the general public of today's special sitting via notices placed in the Daily Nation and the Standard newspapers of Wednesday, 12th November 2025. Accordingly, honorable members, this special sitting is properly convened. I thank you.
Your Excellency, Honorable Dr. William Samoei Ruto, CGH, President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of the Kenya Defense Forces, the Right Honorable Amason Kingi, EGH MP, Honorable Speaker of the Senate, Honorable Members of Parliament, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Article 1321(b) of the Constitution requires the President to address the nation once every year and at any other time. Further, Article 1321(c) of the Constitution requires the President to, once every year, report in an address to the nation on measures taken and progress achieved in the realization of our national values. Additionally, Article 1321C3 of the Constitution provides that the President shall submit a report for debate to the National Assembly on the progress made in fulfilling the international obligations of the Republic. In this regard, honorable members, by way of a message to the House, His Excellency the President conveyed his desire to address a special sitting of the Houses of Parliament today, 20th November 2025. Therefore, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 22 of the National Assembly Standing Orders, by Gazette Notice number 1651, which was published in the Kenya Gazette on 12th November 2025, and indeed as also notified to all members and the general public by way of newspaper notification published on 12th November 2025, I gave notice of this special sitting of Parliament to the members of the National Assembly. Accordingly, honorable members, this special sitting is properly convened. Your Excellency, honorable members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is the custom of Parliament to recognize invited guests seated in our galleries. I therefore wish to recognize the following guests who are seated in the Speaker's row. Her Excellency Rachel Ruto, First Lady of the Republic of Kenya, and other members of the First Family. His Excellency, the Honorable Professor Kithure Kindiki, EGH, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. The Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, EGH, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, and Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Diaspora Affairs. Your Excellency, honorable members, also present this afternoon is the Chief Justice and President of the Supreme Court, Honorable Lady Justice Martha Koome, EGH. She is accompanied by the Deputy Chief Justice and Vice President of the Supreme Court, Honorable Lady Justice Philomena Mwilu, EGH, Honorable Justice Daniel Musinga, CBS Presiding Judge, Court of Appeal, Honorable Justice Oscar Angote, MBS, Presiding Judge of the Environment and Land Court, and Honorable Justice Brian Ongaya, EBS, Judge of the Employment and Labor Relations Court. We are also honored to have in our midst the immediate former Speakers of the Houses of Parliament, the Honorable Francis Ole Kaparo, the Honorable Ekwe Ethro, and the Honorable Kenneth Lusaka, EGH, the Governor of Bungoma County, and Clerk Emeritus of the National Assembly, Ambassador Michael Sialai, CBS. Also in the gallery, we have the Chairperson of the Council of Governors, who is also the Governor of Wajir County, the Honorable Ahmed Abdullahi, and the Honorable Johnson Sakaja, Governor of Nairobi City County. May I also accord special recognition to all Cabinet Secretaries present and particularly acknowledge 5 of them who are former ranking members of the Houses of Parliament, namely Honorable Aden Duale, EGH, former leader of the majority party in the National Assembly, Honorable Kipchumba Murkomen, EGH, former Senate Majority Leader, Honorable John Badi, EGH, and Honorable Opio Wandai, EGH, both former leaders of the minority party in the National Assembly, and the Honorable Alice Wahome, EGH. If Honorable Mutai Kagwe is present, he's also a former member of the House, I acknowledge him. I also acknowledge principal secretaries and members of the diplomatic corps, heads of constitutional commissions, and independent offices and state corporations present. You are all welcome to Parliament. Your Excellency, I wish to make a special welcome to Parliament and mention the Chief of the Kenya Defense Forces, General Daniel Kahariri, and the respective service commanders, the Inspector General of Police, and other leaders of our disciplined forces who are seated at the Speaker's row. Parliament deeply appreciates your outstanding contribution to the national defense, security, and distinguished service to our nation. To all invited guests, we say, Karibu Bunge. Your Excellency, honorable members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I wish to draw your attention to the officer standing to the right of the chamber in green. He is the Chief Sergeant at Arms of the National Assembly, Mr. Aloisio Lekulo, OGW. Your Excellency, this special mention of this gallant son of Kenya is for the reason that he comes from the smallest community in our nation, the El Molo community, a community which, according to our last census, numbers just about 500. He has risen through the ranks as a high school teacher, as a DO, and competitively employed in Parliament in the year 2006 in the Sergeant's office, rising to become the Chief Sergeant at Arms. Today is his last day on duty, having served diligently in public service. The National Assembly had a special session where we paid tribute to him, and we thank him for the distinguished service he has rendered to the nation and wish him well. Your Excellency, honorable members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's now my singular honor and privilege to invite His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces to address this special sitting of Parliament. Your Excellency, you're most welcome.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Speakers of the National Assembly and Senate, the Honorable Members of the National Assembly and Senate, the Chief Justice and the leadership of the judiciary, Cabinet Secretaries, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, fellow citizens, ladies and gentlemen. 2 years ago, when I delivered my first State of the Nation address, I had a vision to sell. Today, I have a story to tell. A story written not in the quiet offices or the comfort of boardrooms, but out in the blazing sun of our farms, in the dust of construction sites where our affordable homes now rise, and in the grit of our community health workers, doctors, medical professionals who refuse to surrender in the quest for universal health coverage. It is written in the steady hum of our factories, in the determination of millions daring to dream and finance their vision through the Hustler Fund, in the courage of our young people working on housing sites, in the Climate Works program, in the digital ecosystem, and in the bravery of those who, looking beyond our borders, have sought livelihoods abroad to sustain families back home. A story of sacrifice, a story of sweat, a story of progress that has not come easy. It is a story you can see in the numbers, feel in the homes, and trace in the lives transformed across our republic. A story whose facts are available for all to examine, except perhaps for the cynical who have no facts. Today, the evidence is clear, evidence of promises made and promises kept. In just 3 years, we have built not monuments of words, but foundations of progress. And yet, even with these achievements, I am convinced that this is only but the beginning. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, As I prepared this address, I reflected deeply on the long road we have traveled as a nation. 62 years shaped by struggle, sacrifice, hardship, triumph, and milestones that have affirmed our spirit. From that reflection came one undeniable truth. We have made commendable progress, but Kenya still punches way below its true weight. This nation has the talent, the resources, and the spirit not just to improve, but to leap and to make the transition from a developing country to a developed one within our lifetime. That is why I speak today with full conviction that history has summoned this generation, our generation, at such a time as this, to a higher purpose. Some eras are shaped by events. Others are defined by the decisions a nation makes. And today, Kenya is called to make such a decision, to finish the journey our forebears began, and finally turn our long-held potential into lived reality. To do this, we must cast off the prevailing mindset of being content with the average. We must step beyond the comfort of the familiar and the ordinary and reach with courage, clarity, and conviction for nothing less than excellence and greatness. Therefore, as we examine the achievements of the past 3 years, results that have laid a firm foundation for equality of opportunity and a nation where no one is left behind, today I will also place before you not just a vision, but a national project that is realistic, grounded, and entirely within our reach. A vision not just to grow, but to transform. A roadmap not merely to move forward, but to rise from developing to developed, to rise from potential to reality, to rise from promise to prosperity, to rise from the third to the first world, to rise finally into the Kenya we have long imagined, the Kenya we deserve. For long, our ambition was held hostage by small thinking and ordinary expectations. But that era must now be confined to the past. Today, we stand on the threshold of something far greater, a moment in which we can say that our parents dreamed of and what our children yearn for, we will accomplish in our lifetime. As we know, this is achievable because others have done it before. I have often spoken of the Asian tigers, South Korea, Singapore, Hong Kong, Malaysia. And by the way, members, the Prime Minister of Malaysia will be here this weekend. Countries that at independence were our peers in nearly every measurable way. They had no extraordinary resources. They were not superhuman. They simply had the courage to make bold, disciplined, deliberate choices. They invested in their people, demanded excellence, and refused to be trapped in the limitations of their circumstances. They refused to make peace with mediocrity. Today, they stand as first world economies. If they could rise, so can Kenya. It can be done. Let me repeat. It can be done. Later in this address, I will set out the strategic choices, the reforms we will deepen, the sectors we will unlock, and the investments we will prioritize to move Kenya to the next level. I say all this not as a personal badge of honor, but as a recognition of what we have achieved together, the Kenyan people, the leadership in all arms of government, and across all political formations. Honorable members, the last 3 years have not been easy. We have agreed, sometimes disagreed, and at times those disagreements have carried great cost. We have compromised, we have confronted hard truths, and we have endured storms none of us invited. But we all take comfort that it has not been for nothing, for this is how far we have come. At a time like this, in 2022, Kenya was in distress. Inflation had soared almost to double digits. A fuel shortage threatened to paralyze our economy as oil marketers struggled to access dollars. The shilling was in free fall. Foreign reserves had hit historic lows. Debt service consumed more than half of our revenues. Confidence, both local and foreign, had waned. International analysts warned that it was no longer a question of if, but when Kenya would default. Within that context, we acted. We restored fiscal discipline. We eliminated wasteful subsidies. We rationalized public expenditure. We strengthened revenue collection and placed our economy on a path of recovery and sustainability. Inflation, which stood at 9.6% in 2002, in 2022, has steadily declined to 4.6% as of last month, bringing much needed relief to households. The shilling, once in perilous downward spiral, has stabilized at 129 to the dollar for nearly 2 years, a direct consequence of prudent monetary policy and disciplined fiscal management. Our successful Eurobond redemption signaled to the world that Kenya honors its obligations. 3 years ago, Kenya was ranked the 8th largest economy in Africa with a GDP of $115 billion. Today, our GDP has increased to $136 billion, moving us up to become the 6th largest economy on the continent, according to IMF. This steep rise, ladies and gentlemen, is not accidental. It is the product of deliberate choices, disciplined execution, and strategic reforms that have strengthened our economy and unlocked its potential. Our foreign reserves have surpassed $12 billion, the highest in independent Kenya. This has restored certainty, cushioned our economy from external shocks, and restored investor confidence. International markets have taken note. Just this week, 14 of the world's leading financial institutions, including Citigroup, JP Morgan, Standard Chartered, and Goldman Sachs, projected that Kenya's economy will expand by between 5 and 5.8% in 2026. This confidence is anchored in solid fundamentals: lower credit costs, rising exports, improved household spending driven by low inflation, and a broadly stable macroeconomic environment. Standard & Poor's has upgraded Kenya's sovereign credit rating from B- to a firm B, our first upward revision in many years, signaling renewed international confidence. This upgrade lowers our risk profile, attracts more investment, and reduces borrowing costs for both government and the private sector. Fellow citizens, our foreign direct investment has more than tripled from US dollars 463, or about 60 billion shillings in 2021, to US dollars 1.5 billion, almost 195 billion Kenya shillings in 2024. In the last 36 months, over 300 new businesses, including 500 foreign companies, have registered and set up shop in Kenya, reflecting renewed confidence and improved ease of doing business. The Nairobi Securities Exchange has recorded a powerful resurgence, now recognized as one of the best performing emerging markets globally. Since January 2025, investor wealth has grown by over 1 trillion shillings, driven by a broad share price rally that has reestablished the Nairobi Securities Exchange as a premier asset class. The NSE is on track for its strongest performance in over a decade, building on last year's remarkable gains. This renewed vibrancy is a clear vote of confidence in Kenya's direction and in the reforms we have undertaken. In short, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, the world's most respected economic assessors and market sentiment are affirming that what we already know, that our economy is strengthening, our prospects are brightening, and confidence in Kenya is rising. Our critics, the high priests of eternal pessimism, who criticize without responsibility and tear down without offering alternatives, will want you to believe that our economy is going in the wrong direction. But while everyone may speak their mind, and that is the beauty of our democracy, no one is entitled to manufacture self-serving falsehoods and traffic them as facts. And facts are exactly what I present here today: clear, verifiable, and indisputable. Mr. Speaker, one of the greatest contributors to the high cost of living is the cost of food. Kenyans in 2022 marched with empty sufurias, a stark symbol of frustration and unbearable cost of basic commodities. From the very outset, we made an intentional and strategic decision to subsidize production and not consumption. We understood that lasting relief would not come from temporary subsidies and price controls, but from strengthening the foundations of agricultural production. We also recognized that agriculture is not merely another sector of our economy. It is the lifeline of our nation. If we were to secure households, stabilize prices, create jobs, expand industry, and spur exports, agriculture had to be the fulcrum of our transformational agenda. To organize the sector and improve service delivery, we launched an integrated digital platform to register farmers. In 2022, fewer than 300,000 farmers were on record. Today, over 7.1 million farmers are registered on the Kenya Integrated Agricultural Management Information System, giving us visibility to design scientific targeted interventions and eliminate extortionists, getaway brokers, and drive out cartels and middlemen. This has enabled us to implement the fertilizer subsidy program at scale. To date, over 21 million bags of affordable fertilizer have been distributed, reducing the price by nearly 2/3 and saving farmers Kenya shillings 105 billion so far. This year alone, we delivered 7 million bags of fertilizer and 35 million kilos of certified seed. And next year in 2026, we plan to distribute 12.5 million bags across all the 1,450 wards, ensuring every farmer has access to affordable inputs. The impact has been phenomenal. Productivity in all our agricultural sectors has gone up. National maize harvests have risen from 44 million bags in 2022 to 67 million bags in 2024, setting the stage for a historic harvest this year of 70 million bags. The results are visible in markets and homes. The price of a 2-kilogram packet of flour has fallen from what it was 250 in 2022 to as low as 130 today. For millions of households, this is meaningful daily relief. The transformation across our value chains is equally compelling. Tea production has grown, with earnings rising from Kenya shillings 138 billion in 2022 to Kenya shillings 215 billion in 2024, a 56% increase. The coffee sector, once on the brink of collapse, is roaring back. Nearly 50,000 seedlings have been distributed. Earnings have risen from an average of Kenya shillings 70 per kilo to now between 120 and 150 shillings per kilo. We are on track to increase exports from 48,000 metric tons to 60,000 metric tons this year, and projected to reach 150 million tons in 3 years' time. Edible oils acreage under production expanded by 90% between 2022 and April 2025, cutting the edible oil import bill by 17 billion in 1 year. By 2027, we aim to halve this bill, saving Kenya nearly 60 billion in foreign exchange. Cotton production has nearly tripled. Cashew nut yields have grown following the distribution of 900,000 seedlings, and so has coconut output after the provision of 1 million seedlings. The sugar sector, long troubled, is now stabilizing. Area under cane is up by 200,000 acres. Production has surged 76% to over 815,000 metric tons. Imports are down 70%. To secure this process, we have leased Nzoia, Muhoroni, Sony, and Chemelil factories to competent private sector operators. Our livestock value chain is rising. Leather exports are up 56% to Kenya shillings 2.5 billion. Local shoe production now exceeds 11 million pairs, and meat exports have grown 45% to 12.5 billion. In dairy, milk production has surged to 5.3 billion liters, while exports have nearly doubled to 9.4 billion. Dairy farmers' support has enhanced with the installation of 230 new milk coolers. Nearly 8 million animals have been vaccinated, and Kevevapi has produced a record 94 million vaccine doses, which are used locally and also exported to our neighbors in the region. We have reduced the cost of semen from 8,000 shillings per dose to 1,000 for our dairy farmers. The outcome of these reforms is unmistakable. We have enhanced food security, raised farmer incomes, driven agro-industrialization, and expanded Kenya's export footprint. This is the transformation we promised, now unfolding across our nation, fulfilling the national values and principles of governance, particularly sustainable development, as required under Article 10 of our Constitution. It is in accordance with this constitutional duty that I report to this House today. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, let me now turn to healthcare, the foundation of human dignity and the heartbeat of every nation that chooses compassion over neglect. Over the last 3 years, we have undertaken the most ambitious transformation of health systems since independence. Reforms rooted in equity, powered by innovation, and guided by a simple conviction that every Kenyan, wherever they live and whatever their means, deserves equal care. 27 million Kenyans are now registered in SHA, more than triple the number ever reached by the former NHIF. This is a demonstration that leaving no one behind was and is not a slogan. It is a promise on course to fulfillment. Additionally, more than 10,000 health facilities across the country have signed in to serve under this new system. But honorable members, real healthcare begins long before patients reach a hospital. That is why in September 2023, we deployed 107,000 community health promoters, the largest primary health workforce in our history, trained, equipped, and present in every ward in all our 47 counties. Their impact has been extraordinary. Consider 3 statistics. 8.9 million households have so far been visited. 9.9 million diabetes screenings have been done with 134,000 cases diagnosed. 6.5 million hypertension screenings have been conducted with 305,000 cases confirmed. Millions of lives have been touched and thousands saved. This is what equity looks like. This is the meaning of universal health care. This is leaving no Kenyan behind indeed. Behind these numbers stand the community health promoters, quiet, devoted, tireless, heroes of this new era. Today, we honor them. We thank them. To them, we say Kenya is healthier because of you. Mr. Speaker, when I promised that those unable to pay would be supported by government under UHC, the cynics scoffed as usual. Today, we are paying premiums for 2.3 million vulnerable Kenyans, including orphans, widows, the elderly, and those without income, because for them, healthcare is not a privilege. And I must commend members of this august House who have stepped in to support vulnerable families in this gesture. We are also modernizing hospital equipment through the National Equipment Project Service Project, replacing the old MES model that burdened counties with heavy upfront costs. Under the new fee-for-service system, private partners install, maintain, and run state-of-the-art equipment, and public facilities pay only when they use them. We have overhauled KEMSA to end the chronic crisis of drug shortages, raising medicine availability from 48% to 68%, and to a projected 90% by the end of this year and 100% by March next year. This is more than healthcare reform. It is a long-deferred promise finally taking shape. A Kenya where every citizen can face tomorrow with confidence, knowing their nation will stand with them in their hour of need. It fulfills our national values and of dignity and equity as stated in Article 10 of the Constitution. In the same spirit, the government is strengthening financial protection for Kenyans under cancer treatment. Social Health Authority will enhance the cancer benefits package from the current 550,000 shillings to Kenya shillings 800,000, effective December 1. This enhancement responds to the rising cost of sustained cancer care and ensures that patients can access quality, uninterrupted treatment without facing financial hardship. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, when I assumed office, our education sector was in distress with a strained CBC transition, a chronic teacher deficit, universities on the edge of insolvency, and overstretched infrastructure. We moved quickly to restore education as the great equalizer. Through the student-centered funding model, scholarships and loans now follow need and merit, placing the learner at the center. Nearly 500,000 students have already benefited from this model. We then tackled the teacher crisis head-on. We have hired, as you all know, 76,000 teachers with 24,000 more to be brought in by January next year. That will translate to 100,000 teachers in 3 years, an achievement unmatched in the history of our country. Together with the national government CDF, we have delivered 23,000 new classrooms and 1,600 laboratories are under construction, easing congestion and giving CBC the dignified facilities it requires. TVET has become the engine of practical skills. Enrollment has leaped from 341,000 in 2022 to 718,000 as young Kenyans embrace engineering, ICT, modern agriculture, hospitality, design, and the trades that power a modern economy. In strengthening education at every level, we are giving life to the national values in Article 10, especially equity, human dignity, and sustainable development, ensuring every child has a fair chance to rise. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, 3 years ago when we said we would deliver affordable housing, the cynics dismissed it. They said it was fantasy. When they realized we were serious, they called it impossible. And when we broke ground across the country, they suggested that these projects would stall. Today, those doubts have given way to a very different question from Kenyans everywhere. How do I own one of these units? That is now the question. Across the country, we are delivering the most extensive housing rollout in Kenya's history. 230,000 affordable homes. And we meet student needs. 178,000 beds have been packaged for universities, TVETs, KMTCs, with 74,000 already under construction, transforming a sector where fewer than 10% once had decent accommodation. Additionally, 270 modern markets are taking shape nationwide, providing vital spaces for women and MSMEs, with another 175 underway, expanding the backbone of local commerce. And through the Nairobi River Regeneration Program, 44,000 young people are restoring the river corridor and preparing sites for 10,000 social homes along the renewed riverfront. The program, the housing program, including markets and hostels, has created over 428,000 jobs. Jobs that include architects, engineers, plumbers, electricians, carpenters, masons, steel workers, transporters, and thousands of MSMEs in fittings, fabrication, and interior design work. At peak next year, it will employ at least 1 million Kenyans. Honorable members, this program is far more than housing. It is a national empowerment engine, creating jobs, formalizing the informal sector, revitalizing micro, small, and medium enterprises, restoring our environment, and building resilient communities. It advances equity, dignity, and sustainable development, the very values anchored in Article 10 of our Constitution. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, allow me to turn to a sector that carries the hopes of nearly every Kenyan family, our micro, small, and medium enterprises. MSMEs are the backbone of our economy, the engine room of innovation, and the daily hustle of more than 15 million Kenyans. For decades, access to affordable credit trapped millions in frustration. Without collateral, there was no loans. For the millions blacklisted, every door of opportunity was shut. And when banks refused to take a chance, their dreams simply stalled. As promised, we broke that cycle. The Financial Inclusion Fund, the Hustler Fund, now stands as the largest financial inclusion program since independence, extending over 80 billion shillings to 7 million Kenyans. And those who were blacklisted, the 7 million once blacklisted Kenyans, have since repaired their credits. 3 million small businesses and their owners, previously locked out of the formal finance, are now banked. And 2 million Kenyans are now frequent borrowers. Today, through the Hustler Fund Bridge Facility, 800,000 entrepreneurs are accessing up to 150,000 shillings each without collateral to expand and grow their businesses. But honorable members, credit alone is not enough. Many young people do not lack ideas, they lack opportunity. That is why we launched Nyota, the National Youth Opportunities and Transformation Agenda, one of the most ambitious youth empowerment programs in our history. Over the next 5 years, Nyota will uplift 820,000 unemployed young people through apprenticeship, recognition of prior learning, entrepreneurship grants, digital skills training, and support savings. When the program is fully implemented, it will have placed 90,000 young people into work or enterprise, certified 20,000 into different skill areas, capitalized 110,000 businesses, and matched savings for 190,000 savers, while building capacity of 600,000 more to undertake government procurement under the ACBO program. Ladies and gentlemen, over the past 3 years, our digital transformation agenda has become one of the most powerful engines of renewal. A quiet revolution changing how Kenyans live, how they work, learn, or do business. We have expanded the fiber optic by 24,000 kilometers and moved from 0 public Wi-Fi hotspots in 2022 to nearly 1,500 today, connecting communities once left behind. We have set up 300 digital innovation hubs with 400 in the pipeline, gateways where ideas grow and enterprises begin. At the heart of this shift is digital government. From less than 400 services on eCitizen to 22,500, we have delivered one of the fastest digital migration in the world. Access is easier, efficiency higher, leakages sealed, and corruption pushed out. And as our young people are driving it, nearly 2 million have been trained in digital skills, and 300,000 now earn a living online through Ajira, Jitume, and our expanding business process outsourcing sector. Mr. Speaker, having set out the work of the last 3 years, it would be easy, almost comfortable, to pause, congratulate ourselves, and settle into the warmth of modest progress. But comfort is how nations stall. It is how Kenya once slowed while the Asian tigers raced ahead. We cannot allow that. We will not allow that. And we must not allow it. Because this moment demands more of us. More courage, more ambition, and a refusal to settle for the ordinary. As I said earlier, we often speak of the Asian tigers with a reference that makes their rise seem like a miracle from a distant world. We marvel at how they journeyed from poverty to industrial powerhouses, from aid recipients to exporters of world-class goods. And we ask, what secret advantage did they have? History answers us plainly. They had none. Their rise was not magic. It was intentional and crafted through leadership, discipline, strategic investment, and uncompromising rejection of mediocrity. Their stories begin in ruins. The example of post-war Japan, with barely 2,000 kilometers of paved road, and South Korea, whose GDP per capita was nearly identical to Kenya's at independence. Today, Japan commands over 1.1 million kilometers of paved roads, while Kenya has 22,000, 62 years after independence. South Korea's GDP per capita now exceeds $36,000 compared to our own $2,200. These comparisons are not meant to indict us, but to demonstrate what becomes possible when a nation chooses ambition over resignation. From their journeys, clear lessons emerge. These nations set aside small dreams and integrated boldly with global markets. They built first world infrastructure in what was third world environments. They invested obsessively in their people, the engineers, scientists, innovators, and technicians who powered their ascent. They generated electricity from all sources available to power their enterprise, innovation that led to manufacturing, industrialization, and progress. They simplified investment through institutional reforms that allowed capital, technology, and talent to progress without friction. They prioritized production by planning their industries long before those industries emerged. Critically, they nurtured ecosystems of relentless innovation, giving rise to global giants like Samsung, Hyundai, Toyota, and Sony, companies that began modestly and grew to define modern history. The task before us, therefore, is unmistakably clear. If Kenya is to grow at scale, we must raise our ambition. It is for this reason, Mr. Speaker and honorable members, that under my leadership, we are raising the bar of national ambition. And that is why I am today submitting a roadmap to take Kenya to the next level. We are committing to undertake a minimum of 4 major national priorities whose rationale I shall explain. First, we must invest relentlessly in our people, in their education, skills development, scientific training, and innovation capacity. We have already set the foundation through the major reforms in the education sector. We have increased the education budget from 490 billion in 2021 to over 700 billion this year, which has facilitated better infrastructure in our education system, more teachers and trainers, and enhanced funding for our colleges and universities. I have reorganized government departments to establish a dedicated State Department for Science, Research, and Innovation to support the urgent need to scale up STEM courses in our education system, strengthen innovation, promote research, and create a pool of high-level professionals in engineering and science. This structure will also help actualize the 2% research fund needed to make this ambition a reality. We must fund startups and deliberately scale up and commercialize innovation to create new companies. We must actualize We must actualize the National Research Fund, moving from the current 0.8% of GDP to 2% of GDP. This leaves us with a shortfall today of 180 billion. Progressively, we should grow the fund to 1 trillion over the next 10 years. We will mobilize domestic public resources, private investment, venture capital, and other private sector financing to drive this effort, because no nation rises above the abilities of its citizens. Let me repeat that. Gentlemen and ladies, no nation rises above the abilities of its citizens. And we must promote a culture of enterprise so that Kenyan companies can cross borders. The example of Safaricom's M-Pesa, growing from a local solution into a global financial platform, serving more than 70 million customers in 170 countries today. This demonstrates the possibilities we can unlock. Secondly, we must turn around our economy from a net importer to a net exporter of products, goods, and services. The most urgent being imports of food products that cost us 500 billion shillings every year. Just imagine. We are importing maize, wheat, rice, edible oil, to Kenya at a cost of 500 billion shillings every year. As I mentioned earlier, we have already made interventions to reduce imports of maize, sugar, edible oils, rice, wheat, but our efforts are undermined by the natural limits of rain-fed agriculture. We can no longer allow the clouds to determine whether our people eat or not. We are able to produce enough for domestic consumption and exports. Expanded modern irrigation is now necessity and the only path forward. We are endowed, ladies and gentlemen, honorable members, with arable land, yet we all know only 15% of Kenya can support rain-fed agriculture. And this limited area is what we have relied on to feed the entire nation. While 85% of Kenya does not receive sufficient rainfall, if we harvested and stored rainwater, we can bring vast arable lands in these arid and semi-arid regions into productive use. With the dams, we can transform our arid and semi-arid areas into hubs of agricultural production, even in the absence of rainfall. We must never give up on the potential of these regions simply because they receive little rain. And we must never confuse the lack of rain with the lack of water. This is why we must build at least 50 mega dams nationwide, alongside 200 additional medium and small dams and thousands of micro dams to collect and store water, not only to secure our food supply, but to bring at least 2.5 million additional acres under irrigation within the next 5 to 7 years. Therefore, the commitment to harvest and store water is not simply about food and water security. It is a strategic, nation-shaping investment, one that underpins our aspiration to be a net exporter of agricultural products, underpins economic independence, rural prosperity, and sustainable development. The Ministry of Water and Sanitation and Irrigation, alongside all relevant agencies, have already mapped out precise locations of these dams. These projects span the breadth of our republic. Sorry. From the High Grand Falls, a mega dam on River Dawa in Mandera, Isiolo, Pasalinga Dam, Yata in Machakos, Singli Canal in Garissa, Soin Koru in Kisumu, Rumuruti in Laikipia, Thochi in Embu and Tharaka, Lowat in Turkana, Mahoya Dam, straddling Nyeri and Kirinyaga, Narosra in Narok, Aror in Elgeyo Marakwet. Others include Ndarugu in Kiambu, Kokwanyo in Homa Bay, Rare in Kilifi, Tongaren in Bungoma, and many more strategic sites nationwide. Mr. Speaker, expanded irrigation will also supply the volumes, consistency, and quality of raw materials required for our next economic frontier, which is agro-industrialization. Irrigation will produce the raw materials, and our SEZs, EPZs, and county aggregation and industrial parks will convert them into high-value products for national, regional, and global markets. Honorable members, energy is the lifeblood of any modern economy. No nation has developed without abundant, reliable, and affordable power. This is our third national priority. Although we have an installed capacity of 3,300 megawatts, the intermittence of solar and wind means our farm capacity is only 2,300 megawatts, far below what the Kenya of the present, let alone tomorrow, will require. To drive domestic electrification, industrial manufacturing, e-mobility, green industrialization, digital expansion, and a technology-enabled future, we must dramatically expand power generation. Kenya is blessed with diverse, largely underexploited renewable sources, including geothermal, solar, hydro, wind, and nuclear. To undertake large-scale value addition, agro-processing, manufacturing and industrialization, sufficient, affordable, and reliable energy is a top imperative. Modern technologies, such as data centers and artificial intelligence, require large-scale energy supply. To modernize our economy, leverage on technology to create new opportunities, and to turn our agriculture and natural resources into products, manufacturing and industrialization consume many megawatts of energy. As a result, we have to generate an additional 10,000 megawatts in the next 7 years, so as to move our country to the next level and undertake the transition necessary for our growth. Our fourth national priority is transport and logistics. As the region's economic and diplomatic hub, home to the United Nations' largest office and only office in the Global South, and the sixth largest economy in Africa, Kenya must maintain world-class seaports, airports, highways, and digital corridors. Efficient transport and logistics are the backbone of our competitiveness. They accelerate national development, connect products to markets, move goods and services, lower the cost of doing business, and will reinforce Kenya as the aviation and commercial capital of East and Central Africa. History teaches us that nations rise on the strength of transport and logistics. Japan's post-war revival, enabled by strategic road expansion, is a clear example. From only 2,000 kilometers of road, they constructed over 1 million kilometers of paved road in 7 decades. We in Kenya, you know, we have only constructed 22,000 kilometers over a relatively similar period. To scale up, ladies and gentlemen, honorable members, our transport and logistics program, the Ministry of Roads and Transport have already mapped out a comprehensive network of 2,500 kilometers of highway for dualing and 28,000 kilometers of road to be tarmacked over the next 10 years. We will onboard private-public partnership in the modernization of Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, Mombasa and Lamu Airport, and sort out the challenges facing Kenya Airways by next year. This work is already in progress. Next week, I will launch the dualing of the 170-kilometer Rironi-Naivasha-Nakuru-Mau Summit Road. On the same day, I will break ground on the dualing of the 58-kilometer Rironi-Mai-Mahiu-Naivasha Road. The gridlock that paralyzes these roads every day, especially on weekends and holidays, will soon, by God's grace, be a thing of the past. Additionally, roads earmarked for dualing include Muthaiga Kiambu Ndumberi, Machakos Junction Mariakani, Mau Summit Kericho Kisumu, Kisumu Busia, Mau Summit Eldoret Malaba, Athi River Namanga, Karatina Nanyuki Isiolo, Makutano Embu Meru Maua, Mtwapa Malindi Mombasa, all the way to Lungalunga, Kericho Kisii Migori Isabenia, and Nakuru Nyahururu Karatina, Kisii Oyugis Ahero. The northern bypass, James Gishuru roads, Bomas Karen Gong, and Bomas Ongata Rongai Kiserian, including Gong Isinya, and Naivasha to Kikuyu, among many other key corridors nationwide. This infrastructure drive will also include extending the standard gauge railway from Naivasha to Kisumu and eventually to Malaba. And that exercise, ladies and gentlemen, is beginning in January. In just 2 months, we will be beginning that process. Honorable members, estimates indicate that achieving Honorable members, estimates indicate that achieving these 4 priorities will require at least 5 trillion. This is undeniably a large sum. Some may see it as unrealistic, even audacious, for a country like ours. But allow me to recall President John F. Kennedy's words in 1962 as he rallied America to reach the moon. And this is what he said, and I quote, "We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that challenge is one we are willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone." These 4 projects are our national imperatives, commitments we must embrace without hesitation, not because they are easy, not because they are cheap, but because they are absolutely necessary, because they are worthy of our time. This is the assignment of our generation. This is the purpose for this administration and this parliament, the 13th parliament. And this is the moment we must rise up to. Which brings us to the next question. Given our fiscal constraints, how shall we finance these transformative projects and do so sustainably? The answer, ladies and gentlemen, lies in 2 key financing vehicles: the National Infrastructure Fund and the Sovereign Wealth Fund. As noted earlier, our development ambitions require sustained, large-scale investment in education, in roads, in energy, water systems, logistics, transport, and digital network. Yet, our fiscal space is narrow. We cannot continue funding essential infrastructure through unsustainable borrowing and burdening taxpayers with additional taxes. But neither can we afford to postpone these imperatives without risking our future. There is need to be innovative in the use of our national revenues, or the national revenues at our disposal. There is need to deploy our national assets available to us in creating public-private partnerships that will crowd in the enormous pool of private sector resources available regionally and globally. This is why we will establish the National Infrastructure Fund, whose architecture will be underpinned by the reforms in the Government-Owned Enterprises Bill passed by this August House that I will sign into law tomorrow. This fund is the strategic solution that will provide a framework to innovatively scale up our resources to match our ambition. It will fulfill our manifesto commitment to rebuild Kenya's infrastructure while reducing reliance on tax and debt. We will do this by using budgeted resources prudently and introducing a financing architecture that leverages capital markets, diversifies ownership through unlocking of national assets through privatization, and use PPP frameworks to channel private capital into public priorities. For decades, Kenya has privatized major public assets, from Kenya Airways to KenGen, from Kenya Re to Safaricom. Yet, we cannot point to enduring national assets built from privatization proceeds because the funds were absorbed into budgets and spent. The National Infrastructure Fund will break this cycle. All proceeds from privatization will be ring-fenced, preserved, and reinvested into new infrastructure and wealth-creating assets. When ownership shifts to the private sector for efficiency, the benefits to the public will not diminish, they will multiply. For every shilling invested from privatization proceeds, we aim to attract 10 shillings from long-term investors drawn from pension funds, sovereign partners, private equity, and development finance institutions. This multiplier will allow us to build critical infrastructure without adding to tax or debt burden. This model is proven. Australia's Future Fund, Singapore's Temasek, and UAE's Mubadala demonstrate that commercially run public investment funds can grow national wealth and deliver transformative infrastructure. The National Infrastructure Fund is therefore more than a financing tool. It is a generational strategy, preserving value, mobilizing capital, accelerating delivery, and ensuring Kenya becomes stronger, wealthier, and more competitive. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable members, our Constitution under Article 201C stipulates that the burdens and benefits of the use of resources and public borrowing shall be shared equitably between present and future generations. In essence, when we use natural resources or borrow, we must ensure future generations are not left poorer. That is why, alongside the National Infrastructure Fund, we will establish the Sovereign Wealth Fund to give full effect to the constitutional principle of intergenerational equity. A portion of all royalties from natural resources and a portion of proceeds from privatization of national assets will be invested in the fund. This fund will rest on 3 pillars. Number 1, savings, to be invested for the future, as countries like Norway, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia have done with trillion-dollar funds. Number 2, stabilization, a buffer against global shocks, including commodity volatilities, pandemics, and geopolitical disruptions to ensure fiscal stability. And number 3, infrastructure. A carefully managed share will be invested in commercial terms to attract private capital to national projects while growing public wealth. History has already warned us. Along our coast region, titanium deposits have been exploited and depleted. And because we lacked a sovereign wealth framework, future generations will inherit nothing from the resources that we got from titanium. We cannot repeat this mistake. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, that is the scale of our national ambition. This is the blueprint for financing it prudently and responsibly. To shape this vision, I have engaged sincerely with leaders across the political spectrum. I've engaged many members of parliament, many governors, community leaders, and with Kenyans from all walks of life. I discussed this vision with the late Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga in the presence of Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, who reminded me that no nation has industrialized without roads, energy, and food security. I have engaged former President Uhuru Kenyatta, who emphasized the necessity of scaling up infrastructure investments. Honorable members, allow me to express profound gratitude to the 13th Parliament for your outstanding contribution, your foresight, your consistency, focus, and commitment on what is good for Kenya. The progress made in the last 3 years would not have been possible without your legislative agility, principled oversight, and commitment to national interest. When the history of this generation is written, this House, the 13th Parliament, will occupy a full and proud chapter. Your decisions are recorded not only in debates or statutes, but in the lives lived, progress of every Kenyan that has been achieved. For this, I extend my deepest gratitude and appreciation. I also extend heartfelt thanks to hard-working Kenyans who have diligently fulfilled their civic duty to the nation, giving life to the constitutional values of equity, social justice, and sustainable development. You Kenyans have shouldered the weight of nation building. Future generations will feel the impact of your sacrifice, and they will honor you as the generation that helped change the trajectory of our republic. As I conclude, I reiterate that those of us in leadership must bear in mind one critical lesson. Leaders are not ultimately judged by the vision they carry, or the statements they make, or the mantra they repeat. They are judged by the actions they take, the values they generate, the difference they make, and the impact they leave in the lives of the people. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, let history record that this generation refused to be timid, that we chose ambition over fear, action over excuses, and progress over false comfort of low expectation. Let it be said that when Kenya stood at crossroads, we reached for the higher path. The work ahead is formidable, but so is the Kenyan spirit. This is our moment to lift Kenya to the next frontier. This is our moment to shape a nation worthy of its promise. This is our moment to rise. Honorable members, it is now my pleasure to submit to Parliament the following 3 reports, as required by the Constitution. Number 1, reports on all measures taken and progress achieved in the realization of the national values, as I have espoused. Number 2, report on progress made in fulfilling the international obligations of the Republic. And number 3, the report of the state of security of the country. Now, therefore, I hand over the reports to the Speaker of the Senate and the Speaker of the National Assembly, and I thank you for your attention. God bless you, and God bless our great country, Kenya.
Honorable members, let us be upstanding. Your Excellency the President, the Right Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly, honorable members and distinguished guests, we have now come to the conclusion of the business of the day, and it is now time to adjourn. The Senate stands adjourned until Tuesday, the 25th of November, 2025 at 2:30 p.m. in the Senate chamber. Thank you.
Your Excellency, the President, Right Honorable Speaker of the Senate, honorable members of the National Assembly, the National Assembly now stands adjourned until Tuesday, 25th November, 2025 at 2:30 p.m. May I take this opportunity to invite all honorable members and our guests to a reception at the Parliament courtyard. May I also request all honorable members and our guests to remain standing in your places until the procession of His Excellency the President and the speakers leave the chamber. I thank you.
The President has wound up his address.
Eje n'Ensoko TV, oboroso bw'umugusi. Magega ya televishoni y'Ensoko w'ikasero yawo. kwanyori baga ligi yaliyokuralia asegete sena mbeyemo imena isiko yeliroba liyagusi onye kubwa tokuralia gwokunyuria ogukwa gose okubonchuria bono na bokonyori baga lyabene liyokuralia asegete senieke aseliguri liyakibusani tulikere gose twakere simigwitire namba yaito yobonchuria 0788666662 ubugima n'urugendo rubwatamange amaya n'amabe umusakito Linet Nyambane niga ng'aririe imena isiko yagusi na gusanga n'abayaeteire n'abakuyaetera
nchekera na ibole twe undango tebiwa na ibole tukinde buya ngakina kinde buya ekera na chiko ikemia kasta ngachaka ngodifer po ngoira samagoro wani kamanya gutokanga na twali robo ona wacha gitego
aya nime yo muroberyo bumwenori kirali tukule Jumatano chinsaiber chabutuko imeya Nsoko TV oboroso bumugusi obulimira bw'essiro y'obunda bw'ense kulende tali nchirende onsira akrobulimi obuyoke enyorera libaga lya bene kwaegwa migelyo chisemi nobosemya iguru y'obulimi bw'ekerero n'echikolinga
ase obulimi bochete skuru nobotigi bokumererwa mate
tebone ng'ombe bune yengiya
Gaya konyana eyinsimegete nterangete amaraba ekonete konya kukina yo kamaraba konya kuyana nganya kwama buya
beka chibuti imokyo bokombe to semogondo bweli nebisumwime na pathway machine
kile tsukuri ya Jumaine chinsa nibere cha muragoba wika chinsa isato asomorobere oberemi nobotugi ekero turesemya mange kura saberemi chini gongoro kwa pathway machine
asomorobere boberemi nobotugi ime Nsoko TV oboroso bw'umugusi onye kubwateri bolyo obosemya gusekero kende gyonsigoro y'emiroberi yaitu Nsoko TV twakeresimi ase namba 0788666663 gose tulikiriri uko email nsokotv.ke@gmail.com boigo nabugo tutarira sebisite gutoka samagacho hazina towers egoroba ya gatanu narimo asumucho munene Nairobi. Nsoko TV oboroso bw'umugusi amarire nigagendrete gutose mwana boira bukia tali yesu sera ekegonko esukari lisabeso ukurasa kwa manyinga yani blood pressure ninki turakole wetanga kuri wasare nyorali chibu asomurobiryo bubugima nobo chenu asora bego kumeni wanabanyagitari bamarwire ao nabo yabamanyi bande bayatunge tyobo chenu kumurikira marwire nobo wenia nyoro murobiryo bubugima nobo chenu na Caroline Mausa kirali tukule Jumatatu chinsa ibiri chabutuko ime Nsoko TV oboroso bw'umugusi
omwancho muri bwa Ensoko TV
igeta sengi Ensoko TV nibwatira sengi nchao
kokoretera amangana amaya
ayatabwati gwanchero ko rwonsi kurime yagusi na isiko yagusi
to kubekera tene ni anyare ko bakawateka
atabwati gwanchiro monda bwensi
korwa se ebunge ya kitutu chache South Meye County ya Kisii elietariane Caroline Mausa
korwe county ya Nyamira elietariane Nyarike Steven Embonde
korwa se county ya Kisii elietariane Wycliffe Orenge
mera na inche Dominic Onderi Nyabuto ekeranya gukoreta amangana amaye ko ruri tukira Jumatatu bakari tukira Jumapili
Jendi Gongoro Perpetual Machin na nyora netrobin ya Ensoko TV oboroso bomogusi
Eye ni Ensoko TV oboroso bomogusi.
Mwancho muligereri na okwani kuranonsi asore asomogoroba obono litukerigalia 20 omutinyi 11 mu mwaka bwe 2025 ni mogoroba endingi ya kigima kerokeria tukunya kuligereria liagendere tumaga yo Omorai Ense gukora Enkwana yayase omubaso obono abwase ari gukwanira Ense gwetera se Ebunge enene abwase abajumbe ao baikirana amo nabarai nabo igo balia bariganitwe aserituko eliga na amangerare tuabere tokuliger kurweke mambia nkwarengamo na Innocent Onyango amana Daniel omwaga na nechinga kichinde chingi yacho kuligereria ase gatie bintu biria Omorai Ense abereka gukwanira aserituko eliga lia lero Wune Enkwana yaye gocha asomo Kenya usegocha asore aserituko eliga lia Alhamisa ngo kwenyeria se omwaka oetete Omorai Ense chitariki charenga 20 neye mumutinye 11 mu mwaka we 2024 boigo Omorai Ense na igeta se Ebunge nene akanyaraga kurwa Enkwana engabune yega anyaraga kurwa serituko lia lero abwastra chikoligere lyomogoroba obono ase ogotema koligere gatie bintu biri Omorai Ense akwanirete omwaka oeta na bono Birianyara kago kwana gose obware tuakira so mwaka oyo iga oyomo ine alibori nendiri na amoncherelio nare ororo gose korengana naye mwanchu muligeria moncheri nare ororo egati yo mwaka oyo tete na gwikira bone iga useri tukirigeria lero muno Omorai Ense abereka kubwatuka Enkwana yaye chaka gotubwatie gwetera senchero yo mutandao gwekerero Facebook raboigo asensemeria YouTube Ensoko TV bwigora bwa kubwatuka ujumbe yago enyenge kubwatukana Enkwana yo Omorai Ense abwase gwetere nambere no tisano na ibere isano na isatu isano na mumara gatano omweri obeka isato na boigo badaye na bogo chugwa kesi miago eritinya tukugwasiliana ase obwagareka rukuligereria ase omwaka olia oetete engakiri Omorai Ense na liokonye akolire omwaka oyomo unyora aso etoburayo omwaka bwe 2022 omwaka 2023 2024 igone myaka ebere na bono ni myaka etatu bono tukubarase Omorai bwaye ige minete mitinyi tigaretemeke sana guchia so mwaka osa guchia so bochori bo mwaka bwe 2025 na ebere nase Enkwana ya lero ekero Omorai Ense achakalia nigachaka kotebana se emyaka yega etatu teraba myaka ere miororo gose esabali yega teraba sabali ere enyororo kolinde ne sabali yabere ntambe ne sabali yabere na makongo au ne sabali yabere ne bitongo ne sabali ya Ense mwende sabali te kunyaka bane bitongo byoka kolinde naro nabe konyora ni bwate bitunu nabo konyora sinale amangana abera amaya sinara amangana abera amakongo igobono asense mwende gotogo chitwateba na 50-50 gose aseberengo bya 50-50 asenali sabali yabere enyororo asenali sabali yabere enkongo asenali bintu bya ororo bira asenali bintu bya kongire na kia kogera ase Enkwana yaye aserituko lia lero
nigatebana amaunchurerio nare aberega kororekana amaunchurerio nare akorekanire goikera boneiga negatia amaunchureria yaiga na amaunchureria ria agocha gweterase chira chiribariete nabo igemerobereria serikali yabe kira serikali ya Kenya kwanza koenekia na ebintu ngokorekana bire ase egento gya kabira kwanirana esabali yaiga ne sabalia egane tegete guchenchia gose kunganya ensi yetu ya Kenya kurwa kobase esomuno rwege songotogote bana third world country na boyo tunyara koba ase Ense media yense number 1 usinse chiri chiagendereire kiuchumi chinse chiria cyazukira mutwe ase bintu bya ao uchakiro bolimi ogende oborendi ogende chisemi ogende asensemo yebi Rwanda no nyanwa borai chinse chiri chiagendereire ase Omorai bwense anyaraga kubwika ninsi yetu ya Kenya na bekunyarikana to kubwekana enseria ya South Korea tukubwekana ensi ya Singapore tubwekane ensi ya Hong Kong Malaysia amone chinse chiri na senkwane y'Omorai bwense niganyaraga korana ase weekend yegegocha Omorai gosomo prime minister bwense ya Malaysia na chigotarira ensi yega yaito ya Kenya ase ense moyende Omorai bwense boigo garure ujumbe gochia se bari barabamereria gochia se serikali gosase mirobire ya serikali ase Enkwana akwana senchira eliende tokoratebana omanye tumwana siasa rumwana siasa rabata akwane direct kolende gaika kokwana igemeretina eni ujumbe atumire gochia se bari barabamereria serikali ase kiria tebana bari barabamereria serikali nigo bakuamereria serikali nigo bari mamincha no bokora rwe serikali nigo bari mamincha nemerobiri ya serikali kolende tibali na moroberio tibali na mupango onde bwensi nonye bakuamereria nonye bagokwana chinkwana ao asemisangerekana kolende nigo konyorana mbabwa timeroberia ndionsi yokoreta magendero minsi tu ya Kenya yugo kini ensi tu ya Kenya mutwe gose yugo chikwene kina ensi yega ngosukere nabo igonko gendere Bosio asense muyeto esense muyendo mwanchumo ligereria sigati bintu biri igo Omorai bwense anyara kago kwanira nigoro yamangana abwatikane na inflation yo atebana aso mwaka wechile fuibere emerongebere nebere inflation yensi yetu ya Kenya nigo yari ngebirengo bya 9.6% abuna aso mwaka oria wechile fu ibere emerongebere nebere lakini ase ense muyende kero tukuligire lyo mwanchu muligire tutaracha wikira ase omwaka oyo iga wechile fuibere emerongebere ne 5 ine aso mwaka oria ase ehotuba gosa ase Enkwana y'Omorai bwense inflation yense yetu ya Kenya nirenga yarenge ase omwaka oyo iga oeta aso mwaka oria aso mwaka oeta inflation yense yetu ya Kenya enga kie y'Omorai bwense ase hotuba yaye nigatebetena nigo yarenge ebirengo bya 9.6% aso mwako 2022 kolenda so mwako eta egaika 2.7%. Bona igano omwancho muligire mogorobo bona to koligire lina konyo mwako oli alenge 2.7%. Ine aso mwako yo igase Enkwana yaye iyengere ase Enkwana y'Omorai bwense tukolya ligate bana ase omwaka 2022 asitwa chakret yaringe 9.6 omwako eta ega trimbuka gose ega kea goika ebirengo biribya ibere chinu gutaisano na ibere naso mwaka oyo iga wechile fuibere merongebere ne 5 nigo bono yaikire ebirengo bya inye chinuguta isano nemo iyo minetina yakete paka ebirengo bya ibere chinuguta isano ne lakini naindero asense mendo komo chikolire liana nainde nigo yakinire paka 4.6%. Abwase ense media kero kolireria ense moye shilingi na kiebesa yensi tu ya Kenya na kigendere tekoneka aso mwaka olia Omorai bwense ase Enkwana yani gatebetena shilingi nigo yakeire kurwa asense media renge emieyemo 50 no mona kianda 169 shillings ase dollar yemo egakina paka 129 naso mwako yega nao etigare talialia igotera kina mono usetera kea bado dollar yemo nigere shilingi emieyemo emerongebere na kianda aine gatiari Omorai bwense anyara kago kwanira na ase kerokeri toko genda bona subwa ngomono ase bintu biria bire byengencho ase bintu biria birange no mwana inchi ase bintu biria bikorengetaye buno mwanchu muligereria asomogorobo bono ngamo na mangana yobo chenu ngamo na mangana yichisemi ngamo na mangana alia se amangana bwatikeni nobo menyo asomenyete na ngamo na mangana bwatikeni nobo limi ine mabadiliko ki akorekane gusema unchiro ki ali gusemiro berikelia serikali egendere tukubeka eriko enekina asensemo yoboremi ose asensemo lya yechisemi asensemo yobo cheru asensemo yobo menyo na ralya yagendera tukubikwa nabo igo chibeseringa chia bekiru gose chia igekirwe erikwene kine mirobiri yengu chire koba eme ikeranu ase obwango manakero tukolire asensemo lya ebwate kaine nendagira gose asoboremi asenkwane Omorai Ense asomwaka wetete nigo umurobiri ochagetigwe olio korukura no murobiri bwo kwena na obwoyo bweli gulire Ense guchiase omokenya guchiase omoremi nigo asomwaka wetete konye serikali yaenanire chigunia chimilioni 5 nemo chinugutenye na 5 asomwaka wetete tali chiguni kolenda abalimi tali chiguni chieche chobwoyo kolenda abalimi baria baringa registered gose konyabeli kirie ase omoroberio oli omanyekaine na integrated agricultural management onyore ntubwate omoroberio serikali ya chagete na asama tukamagega nigobono chinga chekire abantu gose nsitya ya Kenya konganya guchia senchira yekerero nenchire lya omoremia okwelikia weterase omoroberio lya omanyekaine na integrated Kenya Integrated Agricultural Management Information System nekero kwebikira somo robiri yoiga ningego kobera rais gose ningego chigokobera rais mono ase okonyora obokoreri obya kurwa serikali na mona asensemeria nonyina yokonyora nonya nobwoyo ase Omorai Ense asumwakolia abakenya chimilioni 5 nemo emerongene na 5 na bokonye berikira somurubiro lakini asumwakoyo iga mbarenga berikire asumwakoyo iga abakenya chimilioni 5 na ibere nenu guteyemo na buberikire asumurubiro iga bwekerero manyekaine buna Kenya Integrated Agricultural Management Information System abo ase abakenya bagendera tukonyora obokoreri na asensemeri okoligeria ase obwoyo nigo abakenya baringana barabwo berikirie usebagendera tukonyora obuya so mwaka oyetete chibaga goseme bukeri obwoyo yabeteke kwena na so mwaka oli Enkwana nigo yaringe chimilioni 5 na ibere nase omwaka oyiga amabadiliko gose amaunchirelyo naro nari akorekanira abwo mwanchumo lyelia abwo ase chiguni chimilioni emerongibere neyemo na chichiabere chikoena no minute na asaba Kenya gusomo barulia bwechiguni oenane twase omwaka ulia oeta bono record yeyo nigo yakinire igorake paka yekire chimilioni kuro chimilioni 5 na ibere gwika chimilioni emerongibere na yemo ase omwaka oyega gwechilfu bere emerongo ebere ne 5 bado tugotigaraga abwase oboremi asinge nchoboremi omanyete no bwagare tali chibande choka tali chingende choka korene ntubwate ensemo eliyo yomochere nabo igase ensemo yende ntubwate ensemeria yekahawa ntubwate ensemo elia yechae na asomwaka olia oetete ekarato koligeria ase obwango mano mwanchwa omoligeria nigo konyorana asensemeria yekahawa bunensi ya Kenya nkori matore kawa ne kawe yiganige gocha yaena nugo siyaonigwa gocha ase chinse chaisiko ase okwonigwa gweka hawe yiga so mwaka oyetita so Omorai Ense kero kire tukubwekania chinambe chigaturiye na so Enkwana Omorai Ense so mwaka oli no mwaka oyo ntofauti kie ya beiraro nige ekworoke na aso mwaka olia oyetite ekahawa eria yanyaretike koena nwa gose yabetike gosokyo kureminsi tu ya Kenya guchia se chinse chinde nigo yaringe titani chiaringe 51 metric tons yakinete gwika 150 metric tons Omorai Ense atabetena abungo ikero omwaka bwechilfu ibere merongibere ne 5 na ebere whereby ase omwaka oyego mwancho moligeria ekero toko genda ase obwango mono ekero kire tukoligeria na ase omwaka oyega sensemeria yekahawa ine nechitanire ngachiria chiaenanirwe nabo igo korwa iminsi tu ya Kenya guchia se chinse chinde erigukinya nonyana ase echiro yekahawa imense yaito ya Kenya ase ensembo yendo mwanchumo ligere kera tukoligeria ase obwango manaka tugotigara bado abwase ekahawa tali ekahawa yoka kolende asensemeria yesukali ase omwaka oyete Omorai Ense na kwandere tegoro yebigwanda byesukali bunensi tu ya Kenya nkore matore sukali nabo gesukali gango chere yaenanwa gose yauniga gochia ase chinse cha isiko nigo kanyorana ase chi ebigwandambire byasiekire ebigwandambire byegitasegete bikarate na bigatia kurwa obokoreri ebinde ebigwanda binde birakero korigereria mpaka nyone n'abakora imirimo bagacha bagatumuka lakini mbire wikira boniga kwetera Enkwana Omorai Ense bigenderete kuigurwa nabo igo amaunchererio nari agenderete gokorekana wikira boniga sensemo eria yesukari kando ne kahawa kando ne chibando amo nebintu binde ebinge ayibo igara chikugochera Ense mase omogoroba bono asingincha siboniga nigo tukoligereria se ubu ase iguro nabo igo Ense yemo boigo nuchikonyora mangana yiga ase ubuikiranu umwancho moligereria tokogenda ase Ense moyende kero tukoligereria abwo ase Ense mo yoboremi nigo konyorana ase Ense meria ye kahawa yo na alikunya kuligirira gairi tumanye na chitanire nga wikira bodi gachia ena nirwe nigo konyorana Omorai Ense nigateba na seedling ose chinyeke nigo chia ene ruga 50,000 seedlings ne chiabire distributed ose chia ena nirwe guchia asomoremi ase ekilo ye kahawa wikira boni ga konengana ne Enkwana Omorai Ense ateba na yakine kuru shilingi ya 50 na ibere ekilo ye kahawa nigo yakinire kurwa shilingi 50 na bono gwikira boni garige koni wa shilingi 100 wika shilingi 150 kilo ye kahawa gwikira boni ga nigo yakinire kurwa shilingi 50 wika shilingi 100 gwika 150 ase ekilo abunakse Ensemo eria ye kahawa abukolengana ne Enkwana Omorai Ense ase Ensemo yamabere rende ntubwate chombe nonyene serikali nibwate ase Ensemo nibwate umurubirio gusimurubiro norokogendro ne serikali ase Ensemo eria mabere nonyene abaremi ntubwate private sector tugotora public sector ase Ensemo yamabere nige kworokiana chilita irenge chigwikira boniga chilita nigo chiakinire korwa isano billion isano chinuguta isato gwika billion chire kianda ni chinuguta inye ekero koligereria ase Ensemo eria ya mabere nabo igo ase omwaka oetete naronere bya toligereria na ase omwaka oetete irenga amabere chilita irenga chiarenge igabwo nigo chiarenge up to around 220,000 liter aseri tuko na boya kero kubekera ni sabu yo mwako mugima nere ibono ya kinire kurwa billion isano chinuguta isato ase omwaka wika billion kianda chinugutenye ase omwaka abuna ase Ense meria ya mabere ayo narama unchererio aliagendrete kwenekiwa ime yense ya Kenya gwetera Enkwana Omorai Ense omwanchumo liere kingo kwera ase obwango mono ekero tugukwanira ase amanganande alia abwate kaine na mangana bwatikene nobo chenu nigo konyorana ase Enkwana Omorai Ense nigateba na goikira bodi gobada tugukwana aba Kenya chimilioni ibere chinuguta isato aba Kenya chimilioni ibere chinuguta isato na bo bagenderete konyora obokonye aba Kenya bari batari kwenyara aba Kenya bari konyorana okonyora kwabo nigo kolense aba Kenya bari konyorana okwenyorera kwabo nigo korase ekerengo gense aba Kenya chimilioni ibere chinuguta isato gwikira boniga na bagenderete konyora obokonye gwetera umurobero rumanye kaine buna universal health coverage mbagendera tekonyora obokonyi gwikubwati akero kubwekani no mwaka oria mubaro inigo renge insake bwo gwikira bodi buna tugokwana abona bayikire 2.3 million ibere chinu gutaisa to bado tugotigaraga bwase obo chenu mwanchu molireria ntubwate abarwaire bari konyora na babwato burwaire bwa cancer ase Ensemo ya serikali yabereke gutwara umurobero bwo gusira barya babwato burero bwa cancer gose barwarete erikonyora obubwenya n'obubwenya obwigwenyoro burero bwa cancer nigo bogoche nerigo lire igoromono oburero bwa cancer chinsemo chinde chonsi mense tuyakanyone ensengi mu ulimwengu engima rigori lyokubwenya oburero bwa cancer nigo liregoro nase Ensemo ya serikali nigo yabereke gusira na 550,000 abwa Omorai Ense atebere na bono guchakire tarikiyemo umutenye 12 omwaka oyoiga nigo bono abarwire ba cancer barachikonyora ugusirwa konene sana ekerukiria ebesa yabo yakiniwe kurwa shilingi chiribu chimya isano ne 50 goika 800,000 igobora bese yakinire kurwa chilifu chimia isano 50 wika chilifu chimia isano na isato guchakira itarikia yemo omwaka uyoiga abwo guseine besa egoche gusira bali barabarwaire kubatikana no burwaire bwa cancer asense moyende asomurubere umanyekaine na Social Health Authority guse asomurubere sha asenkwana Omorai Ense nigatebana asika kie myaka 3 nigo yabeire akonsana nigo yabeire getiro nigo yabeire omuzigo monene ase ogosemia abantu ase okubolia abakenya nabo igo ase ogotema gukwandira abakenya abanyare kwerikia ase omurubiri uyoiga ase keria tebire na bono omubaro uyoiga nigo kinire gwikira boni abakenya 1 million ibere chinuguta isano na ibere abakenya 1 million 25 na babere abakenya 1 million 25 na babere nabwo berikirie asomurubiri uyoiga umanyekaine bunasha gwikira boni yakero keria enambe yo yakero kuyerireria nigo yakinire kurwase omwaka olia oeta so gwikiraboni go mwanchu muri abakenya 1 million 25 na babere nabwo berikirie ase omuruberi olia omanyekaine na sha use social health coverage ekerokeria serikali egendera tekwenekia na kiromo Kenya konyorari obobwenya gwetrase omuruberi oyiga na gwikiraboni ga mwanchu muri ase Enkwana Omorai Ense nigateba na chinyagitari chilifu 10,000 health facilities chinyagitaria chirichikurwa bokoreria gusti facility chikurwa bokoreria bwobo bwene minsito ya Kenya kirabona ya chinyagitari 10,000 nigo chieri kirie na gwitebera no murubiri uyoiga asebono chigendera tekurwa obokoreri wetera somurubiri uyoiga omanyekaine bunasha ime yense yaito ya Kenya akerokeria tukuriria se Ense moyendo mwanchumbo oligeria ase obwango mono ase chidaika chinke chire mutwe nigo kwanyorana ase Enkwana Omorai Ense nigatebire na ase ensemo eribwatikaine nensemo yogosira abasae imense to ya Kenya umurubiri no uraiga uchagetwe okurukwa na Hustler Fund na so umurubiri uyega o Hustler Fund nigo Omorai Ense aereire na wikiraboniga abakenya au bari bagete kwerikia abandi bari barwete kibesa abandi bari batanya kurwa lakini umurubiri unde nara nurabwo letirwe umuya umanyekaine buna nyota umurubiri umanyekaine buna nyota nigo abasae barachikwenyora gwika shilingi chilifu 50 ebesa yebiasara ebesa yokwengendereria ebesa yogwekinia ayunkorengana n'Enkwana y'Omorai Ense whereby ase engane yiga gosirwa kwebesa yiga nigo korachikoira emyaka 5 kurbono ase abakenya chishe abakenya chimia 53 na 200 baguchikonyora obokony 820 Kenyans 820 Kenyans abo barani employed batabwati emirimo batabwati gasi baguchikonyora bokonye wetera somurubiri uyiga omwanyekaire buna National Youth Opportunities and Transformation Agenda gosenyota abwase abasaye barachikonyora besa wika ekiwango which shilingi chilifu 50 nase Ense moyende ase ayabwatikaine namangana yobwa asensemo ya masomo Omorai Ense nigatebire na abalimu nigo abalimu chilifu 50 na babere na batano noyomo gwikiraboniga banyarire bakolikwa 76,000 teachers abalimu 76,000 nigo bari kirwe gwikira boniga wetrase umurubiri nabo igose emirubiri ya serikali asense moyende yokwenekiana nonyina amagacho yechiskuru nyone facilities chirichiganire ko baroro achiskuru asogosira kisemi nigo gwikira boniga ebirasi chilifu 273 ebirasi chilifu 273 nabo igo chilaboratory 1,500 nemo nigo chigendera tekwagachwa igasensemo yebirasi ebirasi 23,000 nigo biranda construction zenigo bigendera tekwagachwa nabo igo chilaboratory 1,500 nemo naro nigo chigendera tekwagachwa wetera sekeganche kerikia NG-CDF wetera sekeganche kerikia NG-CDF ainegatiaria agendera tegokorekana ime yense yaito ya Kenya mwancho moligereria ine no manyete na imense to ya Kenya nigo togutumeka chi billion chimia isano yani kugure ndagera kurwa chinse chine ine asomogoroba bono no manyete na bunensi to ya Kenya nigo tugotumeka chi billion chimye sana 500 billion yani kugora endagera usikurusie endagera kuruase chinse chaisi kwa ingorengana no Omorai bwense asikerwa natebana Ense ito ya Kenya use serikali ense ito ya Kenya nigegendera tukubeke mirobiri yukwigekana gusira oboremi na nchira kieye wekera boniga chi dam gusama bwago nigagendera tukwagachwa whereby yatebana 50 mega dams nationwide nigo chigendera te gusama bwago nigagendera tukwagachwa sense moyende mabwago 200 aliya makama ke naro nigagendera tukwagachwa eryo kubugolia mache gusikoba na mache aliya gusira ase ambangana yoboremi no manyito boremi buna obwo mochero gwikugania egento gekorukwana amache mono ainaro agendera te gokorekana ase ensemo eyo ase omogoroba obono mwancho morigeria ekerekeria ngokolera bwa ase obwango mono ase gati ari Omorai bwense abakago kwanira ase ritukeliga amangana ye chipara nchire chigenderete kwagachwa tebana gwikira January osomutinyo mutangane ase omwaka oyiga ntubwate ndwe kuna standard gauge railway oinyore nige kurwa se county ya Mombasa, county ya Nairobi ya baka Naivasha bono nigo era chikogenderwa kurwa se tali county gose ase tali county korenda nsemeria ya Naivasha gosumu chio Naivasha libagali yoko Mombasa, Nairobi, Naivasha korende nigo SGR ekiambokero tali kiambokero korende ereli nigera chiko kogendera kwagachwa kurwa se ensemeria Naivasha again package goika ensemo ya malava abwa se ensemo ejo asombra wense aerera se obwagarena nonyene chipara nchire chigenderete kwagachwa chipara au ayura chikonyora ense yemo yabono mogoroba na mpara kechi chigenderete kwagachwa mpara kechi chiko chikwagachwa mpara kechi cyabekirwa se omorobero bwa serikali asamangana alya ya infrastructure sikuigura ensito ya Kenya mangana estima Omorai bwense na yakwanira ase obwagare ekerokeria tukuligirige ntukyo eri ogabwo Omorai bwense anyara kago kwanira niguru yobwagachwe chinyumba cyerigori ryense ase Omorai bwense ayerera na gwikira bori bora tugukwana nigo chinyumba chilifu chimyebere 30 gwikira boniga nigo chigenderete kwagachwa chinyumba chilifu chimyebere 230,000 nigo wikira boniga chigenderete kwagachwa nchire cyaerire nchire chigenderete kwagachwa nabo igo ase abakenya gwikira boniga 428,000 abakenya chilifu chimyenye 25 banyorire emirimo abakenya chilifu chimyenye 25 banyorire chigasi gusemirimo ase enseme yubwagachi bwechinyumba nyono bwagachi bwechipara whereby nonyene chi university Omorai bwense nigaererana ase enseme ya aboroki was university Nature College nigo aboroki wa 178,000 ebitanda nigo bigenderete comment waroro erikwenekena nonyene aboroki wabaito barasiki skuru na barabwonkonyora bare uburaro bya asagia bakorara asagia bakomenya nabo igo boni nchire yemo kerekolia chi university gose chinyombe chike chikwagachwa nenchire yemo yogosira gose yokoreta chigasi ime yense ito ya Kenya aine gati ari Omorai bwense anyara kago kwanira ase obwagare gochukuru ensemeri oboremi ogenda ensemo yechisemi ogenda ensemeri obachino obwagachi chinyomba cherigorire inse ogende asensemo yokwenekina omorero norororo ase okwenekana nonyene nsito ya Kenya nkonganyere kurwa third world gocha first world aine gati ari agendera tokorekana gabo no chikwenyora senchira yobwekera nugikoraga ense yemo yabona mogoroba burabasaki baito baguchiko yarigania ase obwagare kwenekiana ayiganko gwikirare nonye nase chinsa isato cha bono butuko abuno ngo ikiro mwerio ase omogoroba bono asokoligereria alya Omorai bwense abakago kwanira ase omogoroba oyoiga imeyen soko TV oboroso bwo mugusigo cyakira chinsa ikomira mu cyabono omogoroba no chikomera namo na Edwin Nyang'au imeyo moroberio bwo kungoria amariko asabono okuganiria maya na boigo ogendera gotengera mirobirende yatigira se omogoroba obono eri etariane Ishmael Mogere.